Oh my God. It's Hotline League episode 149, the special free agency episode. We're starting 2 hours earlier. I have not told Raz that we're planning on making this a 3-hour show. He's finding out about that right now.
What?
And in approximately 1 hour, we're going to have Commissioner Greeley on the show, and he's going to be talking about some of the changes they're making to the academy system and the way that the development system, I guess I should say. And so it's going to be a great episode. We're going to have a ton of great stuff. First off, my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Going real good. We were able to set this up without a hitch, and I'm looking forward to a great episode.
Fantastic. And we're joined, of course, by Raz. How's it going, Raz?
I mean, after that bombshell you already dropped to me, that's I'm doing okay.
Yeah. My Twitch chat earlier was calling them Gafford grenades. That's my new, I guess, the thing. Anyway, for those of you that are listening to the podcast or watching this later, I have been streaming for about 3.5 hours as a solo one-man show during free agency. Mark and Raz, I am so happy they're here because they're going to make it so that I don't have to keep talking incessantly. Right before the show started, actually right before free agency started, I tweeted out and played a YouTube video and all the stuff that of all my predictions. So far, I think I'm like 15 out of 15 on them in terms of other media outlets corroborating them. So I'm feeling pretty good. And people can go find that video if you want. You can see how I did. But yeah, that's what. So we're going to be talking through that. Mark and Raz.
Yeah.
How should we do this? I'm just going to link you guys my spreadsheet.
I think we'll go team by team and talk about the moves that we have so far.
Is this all of yours? Are these all the things that you?
So I will tell you, and Twitch chat will tell us, obviously, whenever something else is like corroborated by another media outlet. But the ones that have been corroborated so far, to my understanding, are
corroborated.
I mean, we know the C9 roster: Fudge, Blabber, Perkz, Sven, Vulcan. What we don't know is if Isles is going to Academy, but I have that as 50% confidence. I think that's going to be true. EG's show has confirmed that EG is transferring Huni to TSM. We know Speaka, PoE, Double Lift. Those have been reported previously. I mean, it's assumed that Speaka and Double Lift are starting. I have predicted or projected with 50% confidence SwordArt is their support. And then EG show...
50?
What?
Did you say 50% confidence?
Yes. So I have yellows and greens on this sheet, which I don't know how to. I guess I have some pictures I can pull up on the screen. Maybe that's a good idea.
I was gonna say you can cover my face with like whichever team we're currently on or something.
Sure. So I mean it's good if we're talking about it too because there's podcast listeners that are not going to be able to see all this. Moving this around. So we have AG has also on their own show said Impact, Sven, well they didn't say Sven, but we can assume Jiizuke, Lost, and Ignar. So far I've got that going pretty well. 100T, I think Closer and FBI and Huni have been corroborated by other people. We think they're going to start with Ssumday and Demonte as well, so I've got those all in green, but yeah, looking pretty good so far. So, I don't know, Mark, do you want to talk about any of these in particular?
I mean, I'm down to just start at the top of the spreadsheet with C9, assuming that this roster is what it is. I'm pretty stoked. I mean, as long as Fudge turns out to be decent, I don't know why this wouldn't be one of your top title contenders right out the gate. Perkz is an absolute stud, as we all know, arguably the GOAT in the West. It's basically a 2-horse race between him and Caps. Sven and Vulcan, also really good bot lane, despite what happened at the end of last year. I mean, a lot of the C9 guys are individually talented. Fudge is like the only question mark, and even then, he's pretty proven through Academy.
Yeah, I mean, we've had this roster known for a while, I feel like, so we don't have to spend too much time on it. But Raz, I mean, I would assume you all agreed that it would be a pretty hot take not to assume that this is going to be one of the top rosters next year.
Yeah, I think this is like a finalist team alongside Team Liquid. I know Team Liquid, we're going to talk about them later on, but Honestly, for me, Fudge is just really good. For me, he was the best top laner in Academy. He showed the ability to play like both weekend strong sides. A matchup. I think he's also just listening a little bit to comms. Like I felt like he was really strong on that front. The only question I would actually have would be Blabber, because like when C9 actually kind of blew up by the end of the split, it was more so like they showcased like they were really good when they were playing comps that were really aggressive early and kind of had like they had tools to play out and go for picks and skirmishes, but like when they tried to scale or alongside like Yumi or something or GP top, they would like he would still try and force fights that were just like you should just be patient, man. So like there's still a little bit of there are moments where he can coin flip, but I still think he's a really good jungler. So yeah, like this is a finalist team. So like that's just me kind of being nitpicky, but I think this is for sure a really strong team.
Moving on to TSM.
Oh
So
boy.
this is the spicy one. So I'd heard over the weekend a Huni and Lost trade between EG and TSM was going to happen. There were some rumors, and I didn't have him locked in, either of these players locked in green this morning, because this morning a big rumor wave went out that the Huni and Lost deal was put on ice or something. I don't know, maybe it got complicated, but it looks like it's back on because EG's show is reporting that EG is sending Huni to TSM and they are going to have Lost. So but nobody else is talking about SwordArt yet. I have that only as like I've heard it, but I can't I don't feel confident enough saying 90%, but that is the current rumor for TSM. So Mark, what do you think of Huni to TSM?
Oh god, dude. I mean, I don't think I was ever on like the Huni hate train quite as hard as a lot of people. I mean, he's always been a bit of a boomer bust player, with varying degrees of success. I think he was a little different, I think, when on his SKT days, but the Immortals Huni, the Fnatic Huni, and Dig Clutch Huni is usually trying to play carries, trying to generate pressure all the time. And it's not been working great recently. I think people got a little too negative on him for the Dignitas stuff and like the contract and all those things. I mean, he did make Worlds just in 2019, as probably what you would say is the primary carry for that Clutch Gaming lineup. I don't really think you'd say it's anyone else. Maybe Cody, but not, but probably Huni. So I think he can be good, but it just doesn't feel like
he's really surprising because
yeah.
I think a lot of people thought Licorice would end up there. That was my big expectation.
Did you say why you didn't think it happened?
Yes, the rumor is that Jack's buyout was higher than, sorry, I should say Cloud9's buyout. I don't want to single check out. Cloud9's buyout was higher than TSM was willing to pay for Licorice. And one rumor I had heard was that Licorice and, I mean, we'll talk about FlyQuest in a little bit, but Licorice, Palafox, and Diamond were supposedly a package deal. Now, there's been some reporting since then, I think, on the EG show that that's maybe not true, but my understanding is that, yeah, it's a package deal. And so maybe that's part of it, is that Jack wanted whoever took Licorice to also take those two players, and maybe TSM wasn't down to do it.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I think that the Huni pickup is good in the sense that he's an NA, like he's not an import anymore. Doesn't take up an import slot, and he can play carry. But like the issue of inconsistency is definitely there, and I think Broken Blade was definitely the better of the two. Broken Blade, in my opinion, just like without having seen anything inside internally, obviously. I think the only reason why the change is happening is because he takes up an import slot, and not because of his performance. Because I would have imagined that TSM would want to continue to work with him. So
the only thing I can guess is like for some of the stuff that was said in the TSM Legends episode as it was into the end of the year, Doublelift and some of the other, I think maybe Perkz said it too, but Doublelift in particular was vocal about how some of the players were just like coin flipping scrims and taking bad fights, and that made it hard to improve.
oh yeah.
And reading between the lines, people assumed that he was talking about Broken Blade. So maybe there was some internal reasons as well, but from purely a performance perspective, I think, Broken Blade had the better last 2 years. Like his time on TSM had gone better than Huni's time in the LCS during that period. So it's hard to feel like this is an upgrade on that front, though I don't think, I mean, you can make the case that Huni's teammates haven't been as good as TSM's, even though they went to Worlds once when TSM didn't.
What's crazy to me is to think about, has Huni been on more high profile teams than any other League of Legends player, especially with this?
At this point, he would have been on the most historic franchises in every region but the LPL. He's been on SKT, Fnatic, and he's joining TSM. So, I mean, people, the whole, like, how does Huni do it is still, like, does he have an agent yet? Or is this still all agentless that he gets all these insane deals? That supposedly the Dignitas deal was negotiated by himself. It's crazy.
I mean, what's crazy to me is Huni...
He's got a career as an agent ready to go.
If you had told me, so I personally like Huni a lot. I'm not saying that.
Here he comes.
I'm not saying he's bad. If
Here it
you
comes.
had told me, because there's a giant list of players that we don't know are going to end, that are probably not going to end up on an LCS team. And if you had told me that Huni did not end up on an LCS team this year, I would have believed it, right? Like top lane is super competitive. And so it's crazy to me that not only does he land on an LCS team, but he lands on TSM, which is fucking crazy.
Look at your lineup again about who's missing, because there's a little section at the bottom.
Yeah. We'll talk about that maybe at the end, but and we're gonna get into callers. I think for a while we're not gonna have callers because we're going through all this, but
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know about the SwordArt thing. It's been rumbling around a ton though. What do you guys think of that?
Really fucking good. If it's a thing that they were aiming for, and if they end up getting it, then my biggest issue with TSM was that, like, throughout the year, it felt like they were, and how they played, directionless. Like, it didn't feel as though they had like a strong sense of what they wanted to do or a strong voice, which is really weird because they did have veterans. So maybe I'm kind of not really hitting the right note, but it felt like when I was watching TSM play the game, they didn't have direction. That's how it felt like for me. And SwordArt, from watching his play on Suning, like throughout the league, he has always been that player. In flash rolls, he's always been that player. Like, there will not be an issue with TSM being directionless with SwordArt. He has been if not one of the best supports in the world for some time. So, like, I think it's an insane pickup if they actually get him.
Twitch chat says in all capital letters, does SwordArt speak English? Yes. You can go look at my YouTube channel. In 2018, I did an English interview with him at MSI, or All Stars. No, MSI. So you can figure that out. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
I was gonna say, for me, I think the concern is what's this team's play style. I think they have a big issue to iron out in what they want to do. I mean, Huni is generally not going to be your weak side player. And maybe there's a world where POV is safe in the bot lane, Spica and SwordArt develop this play style where they're roaming around. But I'm definitely a little like, this roster isn't one that instantly jumps off the page to me about making sense in what they're trying to do necessarily. And I still feel that way. Like, look, like even as I talk about it, I'm still like, I don't know if this is a roster that's going to have much synergy in how they see the game, because I don't think many of them see the game the same way from what we've seen.
I mean, from just Huni's side, for me, like, I don't. If I take Huni out of the equation, I just see Spica, PoE, Double Lift, and SwordArt. I think it's fine. I think in terms of a direction, I think that makes a lot of sense for me. But then you have not inconsistent, but like a top lane that's pretty chaotic, and you're pretty much forced to play top side. That is the part of the side of the map that I'm questioning. I've actually remember vividly like a game, because Huni played in Academy, where like it's not as if Huni hasn't played weak side. Like, he has played Ornn. He just looks bad on it. Like, he will look for fights or play aggressively on the side of the map where it's just not something you should be doing and get punished for it. So that's where I would say is like, how they want to play the game. I think that's a question on if Huni is playing for that team. Are they a topside team?
So esports Maniacos, as we're saying this, Twitch chat is all saying this. I guess I need to confirm it, but enough people are in Twitch chat are saying it, is that Bloop, who works for esports Maniacos,
Great name,
saying TSM will pick up current world finalist SwordArt from Suning Gaming as their starting support for the 2021 LCS season. So let's all take a moment to just celebrate. I got it right again. Feeling really good about
Travis
everything.
Gafford's Twitch channel, right?
Some of this will be wrong. I know that some of my predictions are going to come up wrong, but I have been shocked at how I did not even think I would get so many of these right. So I'm feeling
For things
really.
that are confirmed, you should start filling them in another color.
I'm feeling really fucking good about this stuff. I mean, I don't want to confirm like 2 outlets saying it is not necessarily confirming it. All right, like perhaps we have the same sources or whatever. I don't want to call it confirmed, but like, holy shit, we're killing it. Anyway,
Isn't
sorry.
that a thing in journalism? 2 sources, it's a story. Or something.
That's not what whatever. Anyway, I mean, I'm feeling we're doing great. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so SwordArt's a beast. I think PoE's good, and I think Huni. I think Huni's too harped on for his weaknesses and not enough, credit given to his strength. But I don't know how a TSM fan looks at this and feels better about this lineup than the one they just had. Even with the hype around your support position getting a big upgrade. I have concerns about how the team plays, and I think it's probably a bit of a weird feeling for TSM fans to see some of the names.
Oh, I will say, actually, now that I think about it, I just kind of thought of it now. Like Doublelift and Biofrost last split were pretty weak. Like they were weak side for quite some time. So now that I think about it, it's not even that bad to have Huni on the top side of the map because like now you do have a threat top side. They had a threat top side before, but it's not as if now it's weird. You know what I mean? So it would actually, for me, disassemble the idea of them not having a way, like an agreed upon way that they want to play the game.
Yeah, I think. I mean, Bio and Treats were not like great roamers. It wasn't like they were making plays all over the map. So in a lot of ways, in terms of playstyle and also how well SwordArt does that playstyle, he's definitely an upgrade. But I don't think PoE is. Has he ever played with a strong side top? Really before? Has he ever done well with a strong side top? I can't really recall. And even just how he seems to play the game, he doesn't. Alphari back in Misfits?
Yeah, Twitch chat saying Alphari.
Yeah, but was he as good back then? Maybe I'm
He was.
Okay, because I remember a lot more about Hans Sama and Max Lore and some of the other people. Am I thinking the right? Not Max Lore. Whatever. Anyways, it was other things I felt like, but yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Either way, I just don't feel like if you're trying to play strong topside carry, that PoE always supports that playstyle the best.
Well, let's move on to 100T because 100T themselves just tweeted Closer is joining, which is making a lot of the rest of the 100T lineup that I've got on this looking pretty good. I mean, I knew I with 100% confidence I said Closer and FBI a short time ago on Twitter, a couple days ago, I think, maybe yesterday, and so right now we've got Ssumday, Closer, Demonte, FBI, and Huhi projected with 90% confidence as being the 100T lineup. So that is, Raz, have you heard of these players before?
Never in my life.
So that is
you asked the question, so I answered.
That is 4 Golden Guardians players and Ssumday. So we'll see if it ends up happening. I mean, I'm pretty confident in it, but like at the very least, Closer and FBI seem very, very likely. Huhi, etc. So
100T is doing a great job developing talent. I'd say,
100T's next. Look at all those players they moved up.
That's a great job, guys.
Papa Smithy in chat says true Keck W.
I mean, it's so funny. I mean, I'm sorry for Raz or the Golden Guardians people who might be watching and stuff. It's just so funny to be like, hey, that lineup looked pretty good. Control Z or Control C, Control V, and like change the homework up a little bit so it doesn't look exactly the same you put in Ssumday. And honestly, I'm fucking stoked for this lineup. I loved Golden Guardians' team last year. I thought they were incredible. And like, no shade at Haunter, but I think a lot of people view Ssumday as an upgrade. And the best part is I don't think he really makes them have to change their play style. I think if they want to play around him more, because like Haunter was really good at still generating his own leads without requiring a ton of resources, but I feel like that's equally true for Ssumday in a lot of ways. And I'm stoked to see this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if it means that these guys are getting bigger payday, if it means that like for them they're happier or better in life, I'm fucking happy about that, right? I'm proud of them because like they had an insane year. The team did. So the fact that they're now moving on and staying together, I think is a positive too, because they can work off that. If this is all true, if it's like Closer, Demonte, FBI, and Huhi are being picked up by 100 Thieves, I'm actually I was worried about the fact that they would disperse like the Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
So the fact that they can play together, I think, is insane.
Twitch chat wants to know if we're covering EU roster moves. We just don't have time, so unfortunately we won't be talking about them too much. And I don't think even Mark or Raz or I are experts in all that stuff. So
G2 and Fnatic make finals. There you go.
I mean, look, so I'm not going to flame 100T because, well, okay, two things. One, we watched on stream, or I watched on stream, Hunter from Golden Guardians, former colleague of mine at Yahoo and CBSI. He did a video explaining why things ended up the way they were for Golden Guardians. I would encourage people to go to the Golden Guardians YouTube channel and check it out, because I think it's worth a look before people all meme and flame. I think, to Raz's point earlier, I think this roster could look great. I think they look great this year. It is very, very funny that 100T, who's all about developing talent and has 100T next and all that stuff, ended up doing this. It's not what you would expect, right? Like, I don't know. It's just so fucking funny, and I'm really excited. I'm sure we'll get a call tonight about it, and I'm very fascinated.
I mean, it kind of makes it very clear what their goals are, right? I remember that was a big question last this year, I guess. We're still in 2020. So the idea of like, are they developing or do they want to win now? Like, those are hard goals, and kind of figuring it out is always going to be a difficult task. And if they're picking up this team, that's a clear indication that they're here to win. Because this was a team that for sure, like you saw it happen, like this fucking team literally 3-0 TSM. Obviously had a rough one when they had to face them again. They could have easily been to finals. So if this is the roster decision that they're making, then it's very clear that it's not on developing talent necessarily; it's on winning.
Yeah, and I'm happy to see more teams hopefully have a defined goal. Like to talk about the 2020 season, like Ssumday's a stud, and I mean, if he's happy playing for in those rosters, then great. But they're clearly also still looking for gold, so to speak, with the support moves that they were doing and Ryoma and stuff. And there were the changes in the jungle position, and it was not a roster that felt like it was focused on winning now. And I feel like some days in his prime towards maybe the twilight, when you start talking about his career, and I want to see him on the more win now organization. So I'm stoked to see them all kind of all in around this. And hopefully that means other people pick up the talent development reins, because that's at least one thing I did appreciate, was that they did give new players a shot last year on 100 Thieves.
Okay, so let's go back up to TL. We've known about this roster for a while, so we don't need to talk too much about it. But Alphari, Santorin, Jensen, Tactical Core, JJ. I think Santorin was 3 weeks ago I was saying Santorin and getting heat for it by some, and it ended up coming. I think in the past week is whenever it started to become clear that it was going to end up happening. So, I don't know. I mean, Raz, I'll start with you. What do you think of this lineup, especially compared to the C9 one?
It's a championship roster. This one I think is really complete. People will always talk about and question Alphari because I mean, a large audience, when they think about successful players, they'll only look at the ranking of the team. It's a really bad mentality. So like, but he was on a bad team. He must be bad. No, he's
if he was good, talented. A good team would pay for him to play.
True. But no, like I think he's a really great pickup, and he allows them to do something they couldn't do this year, which was have flexibility top lane. you could play to top side, or you can have him be on weak side. Like Alphari could do both. So I think this is a huge boost to them as a team. Santorin was the best jungler last year, so already like just pound for pound, I think they have a really good roster.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad Nyako decided to jump up on me because there's so many extra people in Twitch chat tonight who might not know that the CAT word gets you banned or timed out or whatever. So
Yeah.
this is the
Twitch
I
chat
guess the
just wrecking
hazing,
themselves.
the hazing, I guess, for welcome to Travis Gafford's Twitch channel.
Yeah.
He doesn't acknowledge this creature as a real thing.
Goodbye, Twitch chat.
I love how cat gets you banned, but a certain genitalia will not. Travis.
Priorities are straight over here, let me tell you.
Anyway, good job, Raz. Way to go.
It's too smart. So I gotta say, yeah, Raz pretty much hit the nail on the head. This is like the win roster. This is the money can buy happiness roster.
Yep.
They should be competing for the title. Yeah, there's the concerns about synergy and whatnot, but to be honest, the previous iteration of TL wasn't even like super strong synergy, and they still made worlds and had a decent showing. So like, assuming this is even that level, it should just be an upgrade off raw skill at this point. And yeah, I'm stoked to see what Alphari can do, and actually playing strong side hopefully for this team when the time calls for it.
Yeah,
I'd love to see TL play Camille. I don't think they've played Camille in 2 years.
Oh my God!
Is Alphari going to be the top laner you've wanted all along, Mark? Is he going to be the top laner of your dreams?
I think he played Wukong a bunch last year.
Yeah.
How weird is it going to be for like Jensen, Core JJ to just be like, what did you say you wanted to pick top lane?
They're gonna accidentally pick Ornn.
Sorry, you said Jace. I pick Maokai. No, not even Maokai, just Ornn. That's it.
Okay.
I pick Mordekaiser. First pick Mordekaiser, guys. All right, I'm done.
Next
Wait,
up
I
is
can play GP.
next up is EG. So at the start of the day, I had Impact, Jiizuke, and Lost, or Wildturtle, but I was mostly predicting Lost as their new situations. Ignar had already been confirmed by a couple media outlets, and so I'd heard that as well. So that was sitting at 90%. It looks like all my 50% bets are going to come true. Other media outlets are corroborating Impact, Lost, and Jiizuke as the roles that are there. So that would make this final lineup: Impact, Sven, Jiizuke, Lost, and Ignar. So what do we think of this? I'll start with you, Mark, since Raz went first last time.
I'm a little hit or miss on it. I think there's a chance that this is pretty good, which is the same thing I said about their lineup going into spring last year as well, where it's like, okay, if it's like this kind of Ignar roaming, meeting up with Sven, and they're popping off with Jiizuke, then I can see a world where it kind of works. And Turtle did play a lot of weak side. If it is Turtle, if it is Lost, I don't think he played quite as much in Academy, but I could be wrong. In terms of the weak side play style. And so, then you just have a solid top laner and Impact who's not going to, cost you games, which I think was one of the problems that they had previously when it was Huni and Jiizuke together. It was just like way too much volatility. So this is a slightly less volatile version of some of their previous rosters potentially, but I'm still not really going to buy it as a serious title threat. But I do think it would be a fun team to watch.
I just don't know how Jiizuke is back. Like,
so that is weird too that they benched him and then brought him back. It is.
I mean, maybe they spent the whole offseason trying to get Perkz. I mean, they were rumored to be chasing hard for Perkz.
Yeah. Like, once again, Jiizuke had some really, really good like string of weeks in the LCS. It was his beginning and his ending. It was the sandwich that did him in, where he was just like, you're talking about volatility. He was the volatility. Like his last game, whereas EG versus CLG was just the most mind-numbing experience to watch a team play out, right? That's not going to change because it's the same roster in a sense. I guess Ignar is the difference here in terms of like decision makers because you have a new support. Maybe that's maybe that's how they talked it out, or at least like the decision on that one. But yeah, I would. I think Golden Glue performed better of the two players. So
What's fascinating to me about this EG roster is I look at it and I'm thinking this is pretty inexpensive, and I don't think they're paying. I mean, they traded Huni for loss, so I don't know if there's a financial situation in between that. But I don't like. They probably did not spend very much to build this roster, and they're probably not going to spend too much on it. I mean, Impact was rumored to be making $1 million at TL, but I doubt he's commanding that now, especially given how top lane has been kind of a massacre for this offseason. So I think it's crazy that EG went from like being rumored to be paying a shit ton of money to a bunch of people, perhaps a giant buyout to G2, and then it seems like they pivoted to what I think is perhaps a fairly middle of the pack budget roster. Not saying middle of the pack as in they will place middle of the pack, though maybe that's probably likely. But it's just like, I don't know. It's funny to see where money ends up going and what ends up happening.
Yeah, I mean, the middle of the pack is what I expect. And I guess if you're getting there on the cheap, then sure.
I think they might be playing Sven a decent amount. Last year, I think people talked about him getting a lot. So maybe he's probably still under that same contract.
Yeah, I guess my thing is like there's no future with this team, so to speak. Like all these players haven't been played for 5 years at least, except for Lost. And even he might be playing for 5 years at this point. I don't know how long he was in Oceania before coming over. So like, yeah, I don't know. This just feels weird, I guess. Ignar is really, really good. I kind of hope to see him. I mean, SwordArt's also really good. So initially, when it was like potentially a TSM, were some of the, I think the early rumors that sounded pretty nice. But I gotta say this still looks decent. But yeah, I'm looking more like mid pack probably.
One thing I will say about Jiizuke is it seemed as though there was a lot of issues between him and their bot lane previously, maybe even specifically Bang. And so you maybe wonder like, okay, well, we liked Jiizuke a lot, but a lot of the issues seem to be with regards to Bang and the bot lane and it not working. So maybe you run it back this year with Jiizuke to try to see if anything goes differently.
I mean, even if there are issues internally between, like if that has merit, like I'm just strictly talking about Jiizuke's decision making in game. Like that for me was was a big question mark and was volatile. So if this team is trying to aim for a championship, then I think what Impact brings is great experience, right? And he gives you an idea of what side of the map you're playing to. And I think they should go with Lost because Lost is actually really talented. He actually performed incredibly well in TSM Academy and was like the main kind of, him and Treats were like the main sticking points to the squad. So like this is, to me, looking at this team, it's a bot side team. But once again, if they had the option between like Jiizuke or Golden Glue, people will always use the idea of ceiling and saying that Jiizuke has had higher moments and bigger moments. But I mean, yeah, we saw what last year looked like. This year looked like 2020. So I'm just not sold. I think we've just based off what we saw.
Okay, so we only have about 10 minutes to go before we get Greeley in here to talk a little bit about some of the changes they're making. Excited to have him on because I think a lot of people have been wanting to.
Oh, is he taking my spot?
No.
Okay.
We can have 4 people on. We have the technology for it. Stop trying to leave.
No, I'm not trying to leave. It's
You're
like if I
stuck
have little time, then I have to bullet point my, like just bullet out my thing. So
no, take as much time as you want.
Thank goodness.
Okay, IMT, Revenge, Xerxes, Insanity, Raze, Destiny.
Let me see this roster.
All right, so like, I don't hate it. I know a lot of people are complaining about Revenge, or not complaining, but like being like, really, of all the top laners to pick up from Academy, you pick Revenge? He wasn't ready to go at all for the LCS. He was struggling in Academy and stuff. At the same time, he's super high rated in Soul. I think he finished number 1, right? Or
yep. You finished ranked 1 and I think 9 because he had a second account that he was trying to get 1 and 2.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm fucking down. I hope this doesn't turn into one of those situations where this team doesn't have enough threats. It's a lot of younger guys, I guess. Raze and Destiny both have experience. Destiny was OPL who went to EU, went to EU then came back. Raze was just OPL. Insanity was beginning to get a start. Xerxes had a down split last year, but has had very high highs. And so, like, this looks like a young, cheap lineup that might have some studs on it if things work out.
Yeah.
And I'm super down. Like I said, if a roster is going to be more developmental focused, I'm down. And there's no one who could benefit more from development than Revenge, which is why I'm kind of down with it. I just hope he has enough support around him, and this team has enough support.
Yeah, this is the team that I kind of have like the biggest opinion on, like the most to say about, because Raze for me, he's been an insane AD carry for quite some time in OPL. When Lost and FBI came over, I still thought that Raze was really fucking good. So like he's for sure going to come into this, and I think people are really high on King is another example. I actually had Raze like higher than quite a few of them. FBI I think was better. That one's always a debate, and always a question on like how does he perform against better talent, because the like the talent pool in OPL is definitely like bad in comparison. But Raze is really good, so I think this is a great pickup for them. In terms of like picking up an insane player for a low cost, this is literally as good as you can get. Insanity, I'm happy that they're keeping him. And Revenge, to your point, like of course if you're just basing it off of like who do you getting a proven talent, the top 3 top laners that I had from last split in Academy were Fake oh no, it was Fudge, Darshan, and Fake God in terms of just performance. And I think that was like the most consistent thing that I've heard from everyone too. That was the case. Revenge, of course, was just on a bad team. Like FlyQuest Academy was just it was just bad. Like that's just a reality. But I think he's talented individually, and so it seems like they're banking it off that talent and that development. So this for sure is like a talent development kind of faith-based, lineup. So
Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
go on.
I
I
was
just want to say,
you go, Raz, your turn.
All right. I'm just gonna say if we're basing this off of like talent building and team building, I think this is good team building.
Thank you to i9 Gamings for the 10 gifted subs. We're close to 2K. Very exciting. I think my take on the off season is going to be, I think Reddit, in order to make Reddit happy, which is ultimately the goal of every team, you either need to build a super team or you need to come in with something really like rookie, fresh, new. Because that seems to be my takeaway from After Worlds, right? Fans seem unhappy with seeing a lot of the same faces, and I think they want to either see something that feels like a powerhouse that's going to show up and stomp, or they want to feel like teams are taking big chances on new names and looking to develop talent and all that. And if that holds true, Immortals should be a team that a lot of fans respect for building out. So we'll see if that works out, or if they lose their first 8 games and Reddit is like, these guys don't know what they're doing. But we will see how things go.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary to do this in the new, if the format, with the 45 games, no reset kind of thing is true. It is a big commitment, but like, yeah, I'm a little bit with Reddit in that sense, where like, if you're a legitimate threat or not, usually pretty quickly. And there are upsets. There's always teams that you didn't think were going to do that good that do better. And I'm not saying that you should just punt your season away necessarily, but I like the Dignitases from last year, and some of those lineups where it was just 10 veteran players in between LCS and Academy. It was like, well, what's the plan if this goes bottoms up? So the fact that some teams are seemingly saying we're not going to compete with the TLs, the C9s, the TSMs, and even the EGs this year in terms of their spending. Let's go snipe up some cheaper talent, because buyouts are fucking insane, it sounds like, this year.
Yeah.
I also just want to put in there that Raze and Destiny has played together in 2018. They were on, I'm pretty sure they were on Chiefs Esports. So like, in fact, Ryoma was on that team. I'm looking at it now. I just realized now Ryoma was on the same team. So like, they've played together. They have like that synergy, and I think Raze is for sure a talent that people will respect. I think this will be a year that he will prove his name in North America. I'm really confident about him as an individual. That being said, like as a team, it's all about just being on the same page. They'll probably have a pretty rocky start. And there's a lot of veteran, stacked talent in the LCS. So it'll definitely have to be a ramp up period for them.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like I don't care if this team starts 2-6, honestly, or something weak.
Yeah.
I want them to ramp up. FBI, when he was paired with Keith at the beginning, like no one was like, "Oh my God, this guy will be the best bot laner by the end of summer." Like you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So even if they're struggling a little bit, I hope people give them some breathing room before jumping down their throats.
We can take a little bit more time on these, by the way, because Greeley's running 15 minutes late, which is perfect for us because we're running a little late too. Dignitas. Okay, I am going to admit I kind of YOLO'd this Hanser thing. I have not heard anything about him specifically going there.
You just YOLO'd it?
Well, so
Get
I
this
just
shit
think
out of here.
I just think it's incredibly likely enough that I was willing to, if it's a 50-50 bet, I would bet Hanser. So this is the one, perhaps out of all of my predictions, that I think is least likely to come true. Although
You really want to lose, huh?
I mean, look, I was okay. Maybe it wasn't Hanser. I was nervous about SwordArt because I'd only heard it it seemed like it was tough to find, and some of these in Jiizuke and stuff. So actually, I wouldn't even say this is the one that I didn't YOLO the other ones, but I mean, all my yellows are hitting so far. So I'm excited to see if this
YOLOing
Hanser.
that someone will want to go to Dignitas. Is that not just the biggest
Says the Golden Guardians player or coach. So okay.
Dig? All right, fine. You're going to guess cool.
No, but I think this is a pretty likely thing. I mean, they could pick up solo, and I don't know what other top laners are
like
on my
God
list.
or
True, that's true.
If they want to go Darshan, there's one other thing that just slipped my mind.
But here's what I'll tell you about Dig.
Option, maybe.
Well, they seem to be going for people who have brands, and I think Hanser. It doesn't seem like they're going for any rookies, so that's why I think Hanser is most likely. They have a lot of. Again, I think I made this joke last time. It's speculation joke, but I think they have made a pretty big deal with Verizon, and they need Twitter followers to fulfill it. They might be the new Team Snickers with Verizon.
God, you're fucking trolling.
Mark, remember what we were talking about, Mark? The guy, landed a hit last time talking about Broxton. Now he's feeling confident, and so he
making shit
one up.
I don't know. I'm not making this shit up. So I have heard some people say Dig is considering Hanser, or Hanser could go there. But let's put it this way: I had considerably more info from people for all these other yellows. The Hanser one is my weakest play, I guess I would say.
Let me just say this: teams should want to have Hanser. So me hearing that Dignitas would would benefit with Hanser is for sure. I 100%. I would for sure expect that to happen, but it just depends. I don't know.
I think Travis did some good research for this one. He went to Twitter and checked all their Twitter followers and saw Hanser had the most and was like, that's who it's gonna be. This roster has enough up in the air right now that I have a hard time having strong feelings on it. And especially because it could easily go either way still between what the fuck are you doing signing a bunch of
Oh, really? Sorry, Mark. Really quickly, just for podcast listeners, the thing that we're looking at right now has Hanser in yellow, which is my 50% plus confidence. Dardoch, Johnson, or Sneaky, and Aphromoo all in green with a big fat question mark for mid. I have no idea what they're doing there. To explain the Johnson or Sneaky thing, I have heard all offseason that Sneaky is likely to go to Dig if Dig can sell Johnson to get the money to pay for Sneaky's salary, essentially. So Johnson has been rumored to go to a ton of different places, but I'm guessing Dig just wants a ton of money because it seems like people are making decisions like e.g. going for Lost. FlyQuest might try to get Johnson still, but anyway, that's what we're looking. Sorry, Mark, continue.
That's quite manipulation for a team that should just keep Johnson. Anyways, go on.
I'm with you, Raz, but if they do that, and then it ends up being Hanser, Sneaky, Afro, Dardoch, and I don't know, pick a mid. Froggen comes back. Who knows? I would not be super stoked about that lineup. But it could easily go Johnson, Afro, who knows? Fake God, Dardoch, and I don't know. This is one there's so much up in the air, and I don't really have a strong feeling on quite yet.
Yeah. And that's fair. I think it's really tough to say about Dig. I guess I would say Dig has not filled me with confidence this offseason. It just feels like they are I haven't heard a lot, so I don't know if they're just waiting to go budget. But again, they're one of the NBA teams. Speaking of one of the NBA team orgs, we got FlyQuest. So I had like mostly question marks for FlyQuest as of 24 hours ago, I think, maybe 36. But I filled in this whole thing since then, and it sounds like this has been corroborated by either the EG show or Esports Maniacos. Licorice, Jose Diodo, Palafox, Deftly, or maybe Johnson again. I've heard that they're going to run Deftly unless they can get Johnson, and then Diamond, with a Licorice, Palafox, Diamond package deal coming over from C9 for quite some large amount of money. Oh, 100T just announced FBI. Okay, well, so did I two days ago. Anyway, God, it's a joke. We're playing up the fact that I'm doing really well. Please forgive me for that. So what do you guys think about this FlyQuest roster?
For me, I mostly like it. No hate on Deftly, but I'd feel a lot better if it was Johnson to round it out. It's a bit of a mix of newer players then, with Licorice kind of being the, I guess, foundation in some sense. If it doesn't work out, I'll feel really bad for Licorice that he probably got packaged a deal out here, and he didn't have his own choice most likely on this. But if Palafox and Jose Diodo can work out, Diamond can work, like, it's a little risky, I will say, but it does feel like a good mix of one of those newer talent ones, because outside Licorice and the AD carry position, most of these people would be new to LCS fans. And they all have a little bit of history in Academy of doing well, or Jose Diodo at Worlds and stuff.
I will say this roster I'm really excited about. I'm very curious, but especially if they can get Johnson, I'm really excited to see how it does, because I think it is, first off, the Jose Diodo thing, I need to go back and retweet whatever I saw him pop off at Worlds, and I was like, oh man, somewhere an LCS team, or all the LCS team owners are getting very excited about it.
Beyond, we're both all over Jose Diodo as soon as he played well once.
And so this is fun to sort of see. I think that World's performance is what did it. I doubt that he shows up in North America without that World's performance. So good for him.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think the team is really good. Like we need to find out AD carry, because I think that makes a huge difference. But like Diamond's a great support, and I think like being paired up well is going to do well for him. Palafox. Now, people, once again, need to recognize that like the mid lane pool, I felt like in Academy was really strong. I always felt like from like the top half of Academy mid laners could just be plopped into an LCS roster and they would do really well. So for Palafox, who I thought was a great, I was gonna say assassin player. He's able to play anything. He just kind of, for me, he stood out as a player who could really play well on side lanes. Like he could bring that. His LeBlanc was great. Akali was another great pick for him. Like this is a roster that I think will work really well for the team, especially since people were really high on Insanity. Just as a reminder, when Insanity was playing in Academy, I felt as though like, yeah, Palafox was definitely the better player of the two. People were kind of, I was thinking Insanity as like more of he was maybe top 5, but there were 3 to 4 players that I had higher than Insanity. So for me, Palafox for sure, great pickup. Licorice, insane pickup. Like I think they have a team that can actually start well for the first few weeks. The only question mark is Jose Diodo, because everyone's excited for him. Remember, like my biggest issue for the team was that I felt like that team didn't know how to fucking play the game. Like like they were so reliant on Jose Diodo's mechanics, and like not being able to play the map isn't just a 5. It's also dependent on the jungler. So this is on Jose Diodo to come into this team and now kind of learn from the coaching staff and the players around him, like how he should be playing the map consistently. So he's insanely good mechanically, but that's the only question mark I would have, how well they would play in the first few weeks.
I gotta throw something out here too. When during the scouting grounds, when they were drafting their player FlyQuest, I said 2020 FlyQuest is dead, and like people, I feel like they thought I was saying that they were going to be bad next year. I was just meant their lineup's dead. Like there's 0 remaining players from this year if all this stuff goes true. So yeah, I think if this works out, I think they would have done a good job doing 100% roster turnover. I don't always think it goes this well. There's a chance they still fucking bomb. I mean, who knows? Because your point about who's really shot calling on this team, who's leading them, it's a bunch of pretty new players. There's a chance that definitely is the second most experienced. Should he be the one on there? So that's still a risk. But this is a lineup of a lot of new players that I'd be excited to see them get a shot.
Sounds like the EG show just finished, so welcome everybody to my stream. Some people are asking if I'm going to be leaking anything or reporting anything. I put all my reports and leaks and whatever predictions, etc., out on my Twitter and on YouTube before free agency even started. So all today has just been fun seeing what other media outlets are corroborating my information. So that's what we're looking at right now on stream, is all this stuff. And so far, I've yet to have conflicting information from any of the other media outlets. I think we're at like 17 out of 17 or something right now, so it feels pretty good. Do not type anything about what you're seeing in Mark's screen right now, because it will get you timed out in chat. Anyway,
there's an alternative word for that.
I have to do this to people when they're new viewers. You have to get timed out once for typing cat in chat, and then we'll get on with our lives.
We're 11 subs or 12 subs away from 2,000 subs right now. It's wild. All right, Raz, do you want to recuse yourself from this Golden Guardians conversation, or how do you want to handle it? I guess we could have talked
you
about
guys can have a conversation, and I can just kind of add anything. I'm not going to be the one that leads the conversation. That'd be wild.
So, Raz, tell me about this Golden Guardians situation.
Yeah, what's going on here? What are the other 3 positions so I can give you my opinion?
Yeah.
Raz is jungle, Raz is AD carry, and Raz is support. Inero is support.
Okay, so that means Raz just confirmed the top and mid positions that I have locked in.
There we go.
Okay, so Niles and Ablaze Olive is what we have here. Jungle ADC support have fat question marks in it. I think part of this is because, as we talked about before, they had to GG had to reset. Is what I've said previously. Everybody go look at their video on their YouTube channel. But Mark, what do you think of I guess these 2 players coming up? I mean, Niles straight drafted out of Scouting Grounds, straight starting LCS next year.
Good. I mean, he'll be raw if people don't know. Like he's not like gonna come out there and most likely dominate out of nowhere. He has a 1,000+ LP challenger. He's crushed collegiate Maryville for a little while. I think Maryville played some of the amateur tournaments, and I think he struggled a little bit more there. And I don't think he's gonna suddenly dominate against all these LCS veterans. But he's someone who will have a lot to learn and grow, and I don't think he's anywhere near his peak yet. Ablaze Olive has been around for a long time in the challenger scene and academy, so he's never gotten his shots really. He was behind Bjergsen for a long time, and so I'm excited to finally see him in the LCS. And I think this will be one of those lineups, kind of like what we were talking about with Immortals, kind of like what might be with FlyQuest, where it's a lot more new, younger players who they're going to want to develop. Hopefully they find a veteran or 2 in there to kind of help be a bit of a stabilizing presence. But otherwise, if it's going to be mostly young players who are either brand spanking new or have been in academy for a while and have not had their fair shot yet, I hope that this is their fair shot. And with what you've been saying about potentially the NBA orgs and their cash flow or whatnot, it's 2 birds with 1 stone. If you can get fans excited about new players, develop talent, and potentially save a buck.
Yeah. And for me to just come in, like, first of all, I'm just gonna put this out there. Message at Ablaze Olive. It's his birthday today. Just
Happy
put that
birthday!
Happy fucking birthday. For me, I mean, I work closely with Ablaze Olive, so like if this turns out to be true, based on the speculation from Mr. Travis Gafford Industries, you have to add the misters, then I think he earns it. Like, he's been incredibly strong in academy for a long ass time now, incredibly flexible as well. He's a great communicator. Like, there's a lot of positives in him that he for sure deserves to be on an LCS position. So if this is the case, and we're seeing like 3 academy mid laners now in the LCS, this is a huge boost. And on top of that, you know, close my eyes. Whoever ends up being on the Golden Guardians roster, I have faith in, not only because I'm insanely biased, but because of what they were able to accomplish with a team that people called 10th place last fucking year. So, like, that was a big question mark, and have always been, unless if, like, you know, I'm pretty sure the coaching staff remains the same, including their handsome academy coach. But like, at the end of the day, the team from working within, like, they've been really good at being able to develop it, you know, their rosters day to day. I always feel like there's insane work, focus on like specific things about the game and concepts about the game. So I think the coaching staff is great, and I think you know, Blaze Olive is a fantastic player. So I'd love to see people call him a 10th place team again. So you know, let's start the narrative up again, guys. I want to hear it. Let's hear it.
I always feel like I end up beefing with, you know, the Golden Guardians org, but here I go again, man. Like,
let's do it.
Come on, that was with Keith that we said that about. Then you guys benched him. It's not like we were saying that for everyone. And who knew CLG was going to be like that?
Yeah, so that was definitely the big factor in them turning into what was a 4th place team in playoffs that beat TSM. Like,
yep.
I don't know.
Just that one move. That was it.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I just to Mark, did you get a chance to watch Hunter's video?
No.
So he said we will put together the best roster. I'm paraphrasing, but something like, we're gonna put together the best roster of players you've never heard of. So I'm really curious to see who ends up in these other 3 spots. But interesting.
Raz, if you had to guess, who are some players that we haven't heard of?
Oh my god, get out of here.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes before Greeley pops on, so let's get through CLG. Finn, Broxo, Pobelter, Turtle, which is in yellow right now, and Smoothie. Everything for Turtle's in green. I'm a little nervous about Smoothie, but I'm pretty confident that if Turtle shows up, they'll be running Smoothie. So what were you saying, Mark?
Is Stixay for sure he's out? Is it like Turtle
I would say Stixay out 90%. Like, I would use the green color for Stixay being out.
Okay.
I mean, they need an AD.
This is one of those rosters that, like, gut feeling wise, that I'm looking at and I'm like, why, a little bit. And I know a lot of people flamed Finn for being the import, and here's where I'll stick my neck out for Finn a little bit. Like,
okay, I'm so curious about this. Go ahead, because when I said Finn. Okay, I shouldn't say stuff we talk about privately. Continue.
No,
Mark.
I mean,
by all means.
The Finn move was not one where I'm like excited about. I'm not excited about Finn, but I'm going to defend him, not the move. Okay, because Finn is a pretty young player. He hasn't been playing for too long. He has a lot of room to grow, I think, and he wasn't like straight booty hole trash 10th place EU top, which I think is what a lot of North American fans think of him as. If you just watch playoffs and you just watch Worlds, yes, he struggled. But every fucking North American top gets slammed by international competition. They get slammed at Rift Rivals. They get slammed by Bwipo. They get, like, Licorice got torn apart by Bwipo at Worlds 2018. I mean, he was younger then, but, you know, Wonder claps us, okay? You know, like, the fact that he struggled against people that NA top struggle against all the time isn't that shocking as a really young new player who was not really the focal point of that team. So, like, I feel bad for Finn, you know, coming in and probably getting a lot of hate off this move. And I think there's a world where he could end up as being one of the best players on this roster. That said, I don't know why you're bringing him in. I don't know why you're importing him unless he's going to be a project player a little bit, where you're like, hey, we think this kid will develop, so we'll bring him over now. That seems a little weird to me because, I mean, Europe's the better region, let's be honest. You think he would develop better in Europe if you just wanted to import him when he was actually at his peak or something. I mean, maybe you had to pay more then. I don't know. But then on top of that, like, it's a lot of older players around him. Broxa, Pobelter, Smoothie, presumably Turtle, or what I thought was going to be Stixay, or whoever, you know, like, it's a lot of old players who are kind of in like the twilight of their career, potentially in like a win now environment that you're bringing Finn into, and he might be your best player, you know, like, I don't understand. Is this roster supposed to compete? Is it supposed to be developing people? Like, what is this? Is one of those rosters I look at and I go, what is the plan here?
Yeah. Pretty much the same. I like Finn. I think Finn's talented. But like once again, kind of going back to, I am now having the expectation that CLG is a 10th place team or like a bottom 2 team. Like that's an expectation for me. So like now coming into it, I'm not expecting them to win a split or go high in the split. I want them to start developing a talent or a brand, somebody like that they feel like will be a franchise player of the organization. If Finn becomes that, that's great. I don't have that expectation.
Right.
My expectation would be like, I'm pretty damn sure that Fake God is a free agent or like is open. And if that's the case, why not get Fake God? If Fudge, by the way, before Oceania even made the announcement that they were of no more, that they
To be clear, I think NA made the announcement that Oceania was no more. It was a very new.
I don't know.
Neo made the announcement.
Oceania did the whole, it's like we don't exist anymore, and then just like went away. Either way, the point is, Fudge was a talent that you could have always gotten, even though he was playing on Cloud9. You can always barter for him as a player. They only now ever seeing that ended up picking Fudge for themselves. For me, end of the point is they should start developing a player to be their franchise. Every single one of these players, except for maybe Pobelter, I look at and say I can see them having a future for this team, for this organization that they can build around,
including Turtle.
I said Pobelter.
No. I'm just saying. Would you say that also about Turtle?
Well, I haven't seen. I don't know about Turtle. I think that one's. I wouldn't expect Turtle to be a franchise player for CLG either.
But that's because that's why I asked, because I was just surprised if you.
Yeah. I mean, to hop my final point back on yours a little bit with Finn, that's why I didn't agree with the move, because you can get someone around his level now with probably similar potential, because he's probably not too different than Solo, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse than Solo, but you wouldn't want to import, if Solo was an EU player, you probably wouldn't be excited to import him if you're a fan and think that this guy's going to carry your team to new heights or anything like that. So yeah, if you wanted to develop someone, you could have done a lower risk, cheaper option that didn't use up an import slot potentially in NA with some of the people that you were highlighting. So yeah.
Yeah,
I will say, though, I just want to start off just a small point. I think that this for me is not even the largest news that I'm looking forward to, because once again, if CLG is trying to build up back into being a competitor again, this is great. I want to see them challenged by up and coming players. So I'm actually more interested in seeing what CLG's academy team would be, because CLG's academy team, even though they had a great ending to the split, were just also equally as bad throughout the full year. And I think if they were to have a strong academy team that can challenge their main team, then that's where, for me, excitement can be generated.
Just to echo what you guys were saying, it's so weird to me. I feel like top lane is the position with there's so many top laners to choose from this year, with Fudge coming up, other players getting imported, Golden Guardian supposedly running, Niles, it's just, there's so much talent in the top lane, so it is wild to see that become their first pick. Anyway, I just realized at the very beginning of the show I was too distracted to shout out Alienware, who sponsors us. We'll be talking more about them later. I don't know why in this moment I remembered it, but before we get to that break, I'm sorry, Alienware, it's been a crazy day. Please forgive me, for I have sinned. Before I get to that break, we're gonna get Greeley on to talk about changes that they are making to the academy system and the amateur system, basically the whole development of the league. So let's change this up. Raz, I'm going to move you over.
Oh my God.
Oh, which box am I taking? It better be the bigger box.
You're Kelsey Moser.
I don't know why Kelsey has a tag on here. Let me fix that.
Hello, my name is Kelsey Moser.
I don't know if that's accurate.
Oh, so you're saying, oh no, so you decided that you're just going to throw another Golden Guardians member on towards 100 Thieves, huh? Is that what you're trying to do?
What?
Stop it.
Yeah, Raz. Yeah, Raz.
Oh, you're headed
of development for 100 Thieves. You just forgot to.
We're gonna drag Greeley in. Hello, Chris Greeley. Hello, Chris. Here we go.
Yo.
Hello?
I am going to call you on Skype now. Please mute immediately when you answer.
You can have an echoing voice, the sound of God. I think that's appropriate.
He's the commish.
I don't know if that would work. Greeley, can you, if you have me on Skype, can you message me? Aha, there we go. Thank you. So, for everyone that is hearing this right now and wondering what's happening with this scuffed production, we are being joined right now by Chris Greeley, who is the commissioner of the LCS. Who, I don't know, Chris, what is today like for you? Is it actually hectic? Is it wild? Do you have like a whole lot of paperwork coming in from other people, or like, how does this work?
So did I unmute myself here? You can actually
you're
hear
good.
me, right? Yeah.
You're good.
So probably like a year ago, I turned over most of competitive operations to someone else. So he's had a really busy day. I've had the occasional question from him or from a team, but it is much more hectic for him than it is for me.
Gotcha.
Yes. Tim rocking the boo in Twitch chat. That's amazing. Yeah, all right. Love the boos in
Yeah,
Twitch chat.
I'm glad to see it's caught on a little bit.
You
Yeah, it's
want to
pretty
get
good.
booed? This is a thing? I mean, I know Mark loves to do it, but just to be...
I find it super entertaining. I don't think anyone wants to be booed, but I find the whole thing really
I feel like
funny.
this is probably the best context with which one could get booed is as a tradition versus an actual indictment of your work. I don't know.
So,
Yeah. I think it's an endorsement of my work, right? You boo the commissioner, right? So
It's an acknowledgement of your power and position.
True.
at least an acknowledgement of my position.
and since we last talked, you have a new you're using a program to give yourself a new backdrop, which I like. That's quite good.
I
Where-
use Skype.
Where are you pretending you are?
That is the streaming room at the LCS building.
Okay,
That's where I did the draft from this weekend. So I took a picture on my way out.
very smart.
There you
Now
go.
now you know you never need to go back. Okay, so first off, before we get into the changes, do you have anything today that you think is interesting? I don't know how comfortable you are talking about any of this stuff, but I'm just kind of curious, like, any surprises today, any interesting reactions to the stuff that is sort of flying around?
No reactions whatsoever.
Okay.
Totally not my place to have any reactions to what's going on.
What's the highest contract that you saw today?
I haven't seen a single contract today.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Juan Garcia,
makes it easy to answer that question.
Juan Garcia just completely stoned, walked by Greeley's house earlier. Anyway, so let's talk about some changes that are happening to the esports ecosystem, Greeley, because people have been demanding change on the development side, and it sounds like you guys are going to give them that. I'm also really curious to hear what your elevator pitch is for this very, very complicated system that took an hour for it to be explained to me. So I'm curious how well you can break it down very quickly.
Sure. We're going to cut the number of academy games in half. We're going to make it so that academy teams can play against amateur teams. We're going to make it so that LCS teams can have amateur teams if they want to. And instead of having the academy playoffs and finals, we're going to run a tournament. The Proving Grounds, I think, is the name we ended up on. That'll run essentially at the same time as the EU Masters between the finals and the next international event. That will crown a champion between the academy teams and the amateur teams. How is that?
That's pretty good. The way that I have pitched it after learning about it is I go backwards. So you start with academy. I start with the most important thing right now or next year in this new system is there are two tournaments called Proving Grounds, whatever, in spring and summer. Your goal is to win this. If you are an academy or an amateur, the way you get to it is by placing top 6 in academy. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
Or by getting in through a tier 1 tournament. The tier 1 tournaments, there's several of them each split, and they will involve the bottom. You can place bottom 4. You can be one of the worst 4 teams in academy, and you can enter into. That's how you qualify for tier 1 tournaments. Or you can come in through tier 2 tournaments, which are an academy or an amateur system. So you can qualify in. You can do well in these tier 1 tournaments. They get you into Proving Grounds. Am I correct?
I think tier 2 tournaments qualify you into tier 1 tournaments.
Yeah, that's what I thought I said.
Yeah. So if you're an amateur team, you qualify for tier 1 through tier 2, and then can qualify to proving grounds from tier 1. Other than, and you may have said that, and I just didn't hear you
Sure.
correctly. But yeah, I mean that is not the elevator pitch, but that is certainly a more detailed description than what I provided.
Okay.
I like
think
yours
I think
better.
we did it in about similar times. Anyway, so what is the reasoning behind all this? Like, what is the goal? Why did you guys approach it this way, etc.?
Yeah. So I think the academy system just has turned into an extended bench for the LCS. And while there are certainly some players who were being developed in that system, and I'm sure you can come up with a handful of examples. Like Blabber always jumps right to mind. Right, came from scouting grounds through academy and into Cloud9, and sat on stage at Worlds. Like always a good success story there. You know, we weren't seeing a ton of mobility. We weren't seeing kind of the large player numbers coming out of our developmental system that you see, in other regions like Korea or Europe, for instance. So we wanted to create something that provided more incentive for amateur team owners, tournament organizers, amateur players, and LCS orgs to scout and develop talent. We also wanted to provide a system where amateur players had something better to aspire to. Right now, it's like, hey, look at that. I'm gonna grind out a bunch of solo queue and hope that I play against an academy player or an LCS player that happens to mention me to a coach, and maybe that coach takes a look at me and thinks I'm pretty good, and maybe I get a tryout. But that's not a great aspirational path to pro. I think also, one of the things we've talked to a ton of amateur orgs and players and some folks in the college scene and a bunch of people in our scene that are really passionate about developing talent, is that the best way to develop and scout talent is to play more competitive games against better people. So in a world where we can put a bunch of amateur teams onto our tournament realm so that they can scrim against academy and potentially LCS teams, like that not only provides a better system for amateur players to develop, because now they're playing a higher caliber of competition than they might otherwise have access to, but it gives coaches a better opportunity to see, like, all right, this amateur mid laner dumpstered my academy mid laner, like they must be pretty good, right? Watching a bunch of people who are kind of in the same tier play against each other, sometimes you don't get a great assessment of how good or how bad somebody is.
We're going to take maybe 2 calls before you leave to just kind of have questions on this, but this is a quick one. RMK456 in the chat says, question for you. What do academy teams do from the end of February to end of March if they are top 6 and they directly qualify into the Proving Grounds tournament?
So they can still play in some amateur tournaments. We expect that they'll spend some time scrimming and working on their game.
Okay.
This is I will very much stress that we're kind of building parts of the plane in the air. We want to see how some of this works. We have an amateur committee that's some folks from the league and then a bunch of team side folks, and we have meetings. There's a meeting scheduled in December and one in late January, one in mid-February, so that we can kind of look over the way that the system is playing out, identify problems hopefully as early as we can, and try to make some shifts so that it's not one of those things where we put the car on the road and then watch it for a year and then next September figure out how do we fix this for the future. We want to make as many iterative changes as we can to make sure that summer works out better than spring and so on and so forth.
Mark, are you awake? Are you alive?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
I tend to have really bad eye contact.
The nerd problem. What do you what do you make of all this, Mark? I mean, I assume you've heard of this previously. I mean, this got announced a couple days ago. And by the way, for anybody listening to the podcast, we had a graphic up on the screen that you can go find at lolesports.com. But sorry, Mark, what do you think?
I'm excited for it. I mean, I think especially what Greeley was saying about the different tiers of play getting to interact is definitely one of the things that I miss the most from the challenger scene. Being able to see people on the come up. I also miss being able to see the Cloud9 story, the
5 guys
story.
in a dream.
Yep. 5 guys in a dream who they all click together and they fucking take the scene by storm. I don't know if this will ever, because it's not like the winning Proving Grounds directly seeds you into academy or something like that. It's not like anyone has to sign all 5 players, but I hope to at least see some stuff that is along those lines of players who make the run and really explode onto the scene. Whereas right now it does feel pretty slow. Like I don't even know who's like the most explosive career growth that we've seen in NA. Like probably Blabber, maybe, or
Tactical, maybe. I don't know.
Licorice, I guess. Like but even he was in Challenger for a while. You know, Tactical had been in Academy for a hot minute. You know, so I'm excited to see what the future can hold with this system.
Yeah. I think we've been sorely missing kind of this system since like IPL 6 around that situation where we moved towards a more closed system. And I think this really benefits the scene, not only just from a player standpoint, because now you're having amateur players that I know we're talking about visibility, but I'm more so talking about having real development where amateur players are actually playing against better teams. And now are getting actual funding because, as Greeley mentioned, like there's going to be an incentive now for LCS teams to not just own. I mean, they have to own an academy team, but like owning an amateur team. There are more teams that are doing this now, so this actually actively helps not only just the players themselves, but now you're going to have actual staffing and everything for the like top down. So that's one aspect of it. It helps players quite a bit. It helps coaching staffs that want to grow up and kind of having a way into the scene, and it also helps commentary and amateur tournaments, because what's the purpose of watching those tournaments? And I'm just talking about it from a viewership, a basic viewer standpoint, right? Of watching that kind of tournament when there's no real stakes on the line and all that. It feels like, and also like those commentators don't really. It doesn't feel like they get much of an opportunity. Where I would imagine now, you're going to be seeing an influx of viewership in these streams because people are going to be wanting to see, Golden Guardians Academy or TSM or C9 Academy versus the C9 amateur team, something like that. I think that actually means so much to players, upcoming commentators, upcoming coaches. Like these kind of things, I think really helps the scene. It existed in Europe. It exists in China, and it's nice to see that really, popping back up and getting incentivized in North America.
So Mark is, I think, pulling a couple people right now, so we'll have 2 callers. But Greeley, one thing that so I got like the full brief on it. People that want to go read every aspect of this can go do so on the Lolly Sports website right now. They have an article up titled 2021 Amateur Ecosystem Updates. The one thing that I saw in all this that I was a little nervous about, which I would love for you to make me feel better about, in talking with Riot, one of the questions that I asked was, how are these tier 1, tier 2 tournaments formed, and how do licenses and stuff get sent out? My understanding is that you guys are charging licenses for tier 1 tournaments, and I'm a little nervous because Academy already does not get massive viewership, at least in comparison to the LCS. Tier 1 tournaments, I assume, will be less viewership. So is there a world, I guess for me, I look at that as like, if you guys are charging people to run these tier 1 tournaments, that is like a disincentive to run these things rather than an incentive. Does that make sense?
It does, and it really, I think the magic question is, how much do they cost? And I don't have an answer for you as I sit here, but I can tell you it's not, we're not talking $50,000 to run an amateur tournament. The idea here is that the folks who come along and have an ability to monetize those tournaments are usually the ones who have better caster relationships, better broadcast relationships. So the hope is that we will have, and we know that we've talked to enough folks between LCS teams, LCS sponsors, and kind of some other interested folks in the scene that we'll have more applications than we will tier 1 spots. And that's part of the reason for charging even a nominal fee for it, right? Is to start to separate that out a little bit. But we'll, we want. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was going to ask. Does that mean that someone like Travis could Travis run a tournament? Does he have enough integrity? Do you think to make it?
Why are we making this about integrity?
Yeah, money. The integrity question.
I mean, I don't know what the
But
process
could community figures run it? I
Right,
think
could,
is a
could
fair
Travis
question.
or Tyler One be like, hey, I'm a run one of these tournaments? Like, would that even be a possibility? Because I feel like that would get quite a bit of hype.
Yeah, look, we're gonna. This isn't strictly a money thing for us. It's actually not primarily a money thing for us. We're gonna take every application and look for stuff that's interesting, right? If our goal is to create a buzz and to generate viewership and to generate attention on the ecosystem and on the players, there's no world in which this isn't going to be a thing that's like, all right, let's just take the top 3 LCS sponsors and those are the 3 folks that are going to get to run a tournament and everybody else can wait in line. But we haven't formalized the process, but things that are interesting we'll certainly take a look at. So if Tyler One wants to come run an amateur tournament, like, dude, grab the link off the article and send it in, and like, let's have that discussion.
Yeah. All right. You want to grab our first caller, Mark?
Sure.
Okay. Off Mark goes to grab our first caller. We've got so many subs. I'm sorry I can't get to all of you. I'm gonna do my best. Oh boy, I need to pull this up. I don't even have time to do this. People have been so generous tonight. I mean, we've got great viewership. Fantastic. Thank you again, Greeley, for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm glad this is not a crazy day for you. It's been an insane day for me. So.
Well, you're just trying to fill in for Jacob Wolf now. I've seen you breaking a bunch of rumors over the last couple of days, trying to make sure Jacob can't find a new job.
I mean, yeah, that's my goal. I think he's found a job at EG, I guess, is seemingly how today has gone. TomShoe is here. Tom, where are you calling from?
Hey guys, back. How y'all doing? I'm calling from
long time no hear.
Oh yes, I'm sure of that. From Washington D.C.
Nice.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
Great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the academy system we have, being established right now. I think pretty much everything is great. Hand clap to pretty much everyone who was responsible for putting the whole thing together. But I think one interesting part that people may not know about is exactly how contracts are supposed to work in amateur. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that they are supposed to run for only 1 year, and each year, each amateur players will have the option to sign to basically test free agency every single year. And teams won't have the opportunity to re-sign their players until they test free agency first. And now what makes this interesting is that it's like now we're trying to think about it from the team's perspective. Like, you see this good person in amateur that you really want to try out, and you want to have this person for multiple years because you think they're the real deal. But it's now you have to invest in them and then run the risk of them, being poached by another team before you actually get the chance to, develop them for the most part. It seems like it's a really weird balance between trying to ensure player mobility, which is kind of a big deal. One thing people were kind of complaining about when Academy was here, because, with all the C9 bias, versus trying to protect the investment of the team into that player. And I kind of wanted to think, what was your thoughts on that change? Because it seems like it's a little
how do you
leaning.
balance the mobility of the players with the desire for teams to actually invest into them?
Yeah, it's one of the harder problems we faced in the system, because the problem is, if you give too many protections to a team, an LCS team operating at the amateur level, all you've now done is require every LCS team to have an amateur team, right? Because now if I'm let's pick a team. If I'm 100 Thieves, right, I'll take the first team in alphabetical order. If I'm 100 Thieves and I'm running an amateur team, I can now lock up talent at the amateur level, put them in a long-term contract, and essentially keep them siloed in the system. And if I'm really good at developing talent, I can stack my amateur team, stack my academy team, and you don't have the ability for those players to move out to other teams where there may be openings. On the flip side, if you don't provide enough protection for teams, then they have no incentive at all to move down into the amateur scene. And finding that balance between making it mandatory and making it attractive is the balance that we spend a lot of time trying to strike. where we wound up. So, Tom, you're right. If I'm an amateur player, anyone wants to sign me, I play support. Zyra main. So you get signed on an amateur contract. That amateur contract has to expire. I think the date this year will be November 5th, but it's somewhere right around the beginning of November. That's a Friday. 3 days later is going to be the start of amateur free agency. And then a week later will be the start of formal free agency.
Okay.
So you've got 3 days as an amateur player where there's no poaching protection, and you can have conversations with teams. The only caveat to that is if you played on an amateur team that was associated with an LCS team. So if I'm on 100, if John Robinson or Papa Smithy calls me up tomorrow and signs me to 100 Next as their support, when my amateur contract runs out, if I get an offer from someone else, and I'm assuming I would get 7 or 8 other offers to move up to the academy level, 100 Thieves would have the opportunity to match the level and the economic terms for 1 year. So if, all right, so next team in alphabetical order, if Jack called me up from Cloud9 and said, hey, I'm going to pay you 400 grand a year to come be my academy support, Papa Smithy would have the opportunity to match that deal, but it can only last 1 year. So if I'm stuck on an org I don't want to be on, I still get to move up to the academy level. I still get paid, but I have the org has another year to work with me, develop me, and hopefully bring me into the system. But I'm not going to get locked into playing an academy for the long term if I have the skills to move up to the LCS level, which obviously I would.
Obviously, you would.
I have a question to this. So that's great. I actually like that from an academy level, or at least like the LCS teams that own an amateur team. But what about the amateur organizations now that will be kind of being able to play in a proving grounds? Do they come to those same limitations? Like, for instance, if I'm Mr. Bobby and I'm now a mid laner for a random amateur team, but I'm locked up in basically a toilet paper contract, like what is there any protection for that? Because they're not a part of that system.
So if you're playing in Tier 1 or Tier 2 as an amateur team, you'll register that team with Riot. You'll do some minimal paperwork. You'll show us that you are following the rules that we publish for amateur teams. And you'll have poaching protection the same way that an LCS amateur org would until that November 5th date when all amateur contracts that are in the Tier 1, Tier 2 system are required to expire. So if an LCS team comes along wants to take one of your players, we have a system we've set up where LCS teams, when you bring up somebody who's never been on the global contract database before from the amateur system, you'll pay a registration fee, and then we'll pool those registration fees and we'll pay them back to the teams that help develop the players up to a maximum of, I think it's $5,000 per player. So if you're high and you're running Radiance and you get 5 of your guys picked up, you're looking at a maximum $25,000, depending on how many people came up from amateur. The pool could obviously be much smaller. He could get smaller payouts. You can, and those amateur teams will still be in a position to sell their players before the summer roster lock for buyouts. So there'll be a couple different ways for amateur teams to kind of sustain the development and scouting of players. There'll be a couple different ways for LCS teams to acquire players, and hopefully there'll be a lot of routes for amateur players to move up through the system, and then go lift that Summoner's Cup for us in a year or two.
So that's.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
So that sounds interesting. That if I'm a team and I know I'm sitting on hot talent and I have this $5,000 thing, it's in my favor to try and find the buyout that the player's probably going to end up going with anyways then, right? If I understood that correctly, if they're going to get 5,000 maximum, but you can get more from a buyout.
Yep, for
before
sure.
you reach that. Yeah, okay.
But you have to do it before summer lock. So
right.
Yeah. So obviously Pop would probably have me on the market, $25,000, $30,000 buyout.
You play one game, everyone's like, how do I get my hands on this guy?
Yeah, I didn't know guys over 40 could be that good, but here I am, man. I'm breaking all right,
let's
stereotypes.
Let's get this together. Tom, we have to move quickly to the other caller, but I don't know if you have any follow-up or any quick thoughts on what you just heard.
No, I think I sort of get the idea. It's more of like a restricted free agency kind of thing where, you can match the offer. And I think that's kind of the idea you're going for.
Yeah, something like.
Yeah.
Okay,
very good. Well, hey, thanks, Tom. Is there anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
Yeah, can I give a quick shout out to myself because like about 10 days before 10 like about a year 10 days before a year ago I was on the same call basically ragging on 100 Thieves because they ended up signing Ryoma instead of Demonte, and look what they are doing right now. So can I just say that I won as usual, and
Oh
can we get, yeah, I remember, and
Yeah.
we need Yasui and LCS as usual. All right, that's it for me.
Goodbye.
Yep.
All right, he's not gonna win that one.
All right. You want to grab the next caller, Mark?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We're allowed to shout ourselves out. If I would have
Yes.
known that, I would have. I mean, I'd come on Hotline League a lot more often.
This is all. It's just a big self-promotional thing. Thank you to Smoke Dog for 20 months. Easy, stay safe. 100 Talk Pod hosted us with one viewer. Thank you. Very generous. Larrikin for 3. Lucasio, Ray Son of Gotham, Lit Drummer Boy, Max Drixton, Vindictus, Quaz 420, and Yeshua. We'll get to more of those in a second, but we're joined right now by LNA. LNA, where are you calling from?
Hey, crew, I'm calling from San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, Texas. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of exciting news about the sort of league side and how we're formatting all the games and stuff. I think that's awesome. But I want to talk a little bit about the actual viewership experience. Little background. Before being in San Antonio, I was in Orange County and went to a few games in person. And, the broadcast is polished, the games are polished, it's great. But there's not much going on for the actual viewers. And I think the same could be said for the online viewership experience. So really, this is kind of a question to the league of what's coming next. Are we going to get a more interactive online viewership, maybe an MMO type of thing that's going to open up opportunities for teams to, I don't know, maybe invest more, maybe merchandise. Basically, just give us plebs here a little bit more of an opportunity to engage. And I don't know, maybe there's some more merchandising and impressions to be made on this.
And for people who are, when you say MMO, I think it confused some people. When you say MMO, you mean more kind of like the virtual reality sort of,
Like a digital
seeding,
space.
a digital, yeah.
Like maybe Gaia Online type of thing, or like a digital VR space.
Yeah. So not planning a digital VR space, although that would be cool. We talked about that a lot around summer finals this year and realized that like we don't have Fortnite's engine. So anything we did probably would have been janky at best. It's funny. It's funny you mentioned MMO. We have a partnership with a company called Green Park Sports.
Are you about to announce Riot's MMO? Is it finally?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I was like, let me stop the joke, like right in the beginning, right? I've seen people get into those issues. By the way, the Captain Flowers is fucking amazing. So Green Park Sports is a fan engagement platform. We had a press release come out last year, which is the like how I know I can talk about it. But it's a fan engagement platform. You can do some pics on there. You'll have an avatar. There's some digital merch. It should be super cool. We've also got we've got another kind of digital thing we're working on, but we're not at a point yet where we're ready to announce it. But yeah, man, we want to make we want to give people a reason to engage past just the storylines and amazing analysts like MarkZ. We want we kind of want there to be something to do and something to do with your friends. So like there's a bunch of fantasy game options out there that are neat. And I know some folks have jumped in on. We obviously used to run the LCS fantasy as well. But we're looking more for those kind of experiences rather than the like virtual human kind of like Roblox thing.
Yeah, that's
Very good.
awesome. Raz's face was my face there too. So 2021, we're getting a sort of virtual experience.
A sort of virtual experience. Sure, I'll go with that. Go Google Green Park Sports. I don't know what's actually public about them, but we'll have some more stuff on them coming soon.
People can use the leak emote in the chat right now. Thank you, LNA, for the call, which I literally thought was like very random, and yet ended up getting some good information out of Greeley that I did not expect.
Yeah.
You're very good at this. Anything you want to
shout
shout out?
Alienware.
What's that?
Shout out to Alienware.
Oh, thank you very much. Have a good one. All right.
You did worry me enough that I had to Google Green Park Sports and LCS to make sure it was actually announced. So
Is
that's at least good. Yeah. We announced it back in January. They've been doing a lot of alpha stuff.
How did I miss this? You guys didn't send me a thing.
Maybe not. It was yeah, maybe not. Well, there was no public product, right? So sending it to you and then having you talk about it, and then everyone turns around and says, "Well, where is the thing?" Makes it kind of tough. But
Okay.
yeah.
I
Well,
feel like
go ahead.
yearly we also bug you about fantasy, and I know you slipped it in a little bit there. Did I? Maybe I missed it. Do we have an update on fantasy or no?
So, I mean, I remind people all the time that there are a ton of fantasy games out there. A lot of fantasy LCS. Dude, the flowers
Draft
nodding
buff.
is absolutely so spot on. At times, I'll say something and then I just see his head nodding.
Yeah.
Whether or not the LCS has an official fantasy partner for 2021, still an open question.
I would like to shout out Draft Buff, who does not sponsor this show but has sponsored me in the past, is making an amazing fantasy product. I mean, flowers of grease. Anyway, podcast listeners, sorry, I have decided to eat because I've been streaming for 5.5 hours. Kobe was nice enough to go get me food. I don't want to see people.
5
not
hours?
so.
You're a regular streamer, Travis. 5 hours is nothing for a regular streamer.
It's like I've been streaming about half the time that you're supposed to like wait between meals, so I have to eat now.
Like, holy shit. I love you, Travis.
It's been a very busy day. Free agency is like, I'm going to work very long hours. I've been chasing rumors since
Travis,
this morning
if you're
and
not
developing video
live for
content.
me to view you doing work, I don't believe that you're working. If I can't see it, then it's not happening. I'm like a child. I don't have object permanency. I can't believe it.
We have Chris Greeley on right now. Maybe we should focus on anything related to that.
I'm super curious. So the chat's calling Travis a boomer for needing to keep his blood sugar up, which is hysterical. Is there a widely accepted age cutoff for boomer, or is it more of like when you do shit like turn off your cam so that you can eat after 5 hours of streaming? You qualify by action or age?
I think
15
action.
plus?
I think action.
Yeah.
Action.
Boomer is different than baby boomer. I think baby boomer is a generation, but a boomer is a lifestyle.
I mean, I know what the hell boomer means. Like, I understand the difference between baby boomer and boomer.
Right,
like,
but that's what I'm saying. Is like boomers doesn't have an age cutoff.
All right.
The amount of times I've struggled with Discord is definitely boomer.
Can you guys keep talking while I go get a bottle opener for this soda? Ask a question.
All right.
Oh no.
Mr. Greeley.
What's up?
I actually don't really have a question ready to go. If anyone wants to post one in Twitch chat or Discord, I'll try and find another person, because I think Travis thought that the 2 calls that I pulled were going to last longer. So I'll still be hovering between these.
I want to shout out Papa Smithy, who I see in the Twitch chat. After I name dropped him a bunch, I am waiting on that contract to come through for solo queue, for my solo queue performance. Also, Derek Dennis, right, Ice Chest, for all of his work on the amateur and academy system. He gets very little credit for a lot of hard work.
For
There
sure.
we go. There are my plugs.
I have one question. The mobility between academy to amateur is something that I'm interested in. Like if a player is moving from academy with, let's just say, a 3-year contract, and he's moving to an amateur setting, that means that they would have to reformat their contract, correct? To make it so that they fit that 1 year term.
So it's a little different if you're on the global contract database, because at that point you're being paid an academy minimum salary, which is like close to federal minimum wage. So it's like 55 grand.
Yeah.
So we're a little less concerned. We are looking at some mobility rules that after 2 years on the same academy team, there's a chance the team loses poaching protection for you.
Mhm.
So if you have played, I don't want to start misquoting the rule because I haven't looked at it in a while, but basically if you're making less than the LCS minimum and you've played like less than a certain number of LCS games, right? If a team's moving you up and moving you back, right, that's one thing. But we want to make sure that there aren't players who are just kind of being left to die in academy because buyout fees and things like that. So we want them to be able to shift over.
Okay.
Cool. So I have
Mark.
a couple questions. One of the most common ones, though I doubt you'll be able to say anything, but I'll give you the chance to say that, is LCS format. What's going on? Travis has leaked it already. But I think people are waiting. I don't think official
Let's just pretend
word.
I'm still AFK for this part.
Yeah. I don't have anything prepared to share right now. But we always announce, like last year, we announced spring and summer playoff changes before the season. So if there are format changes coming, I am sure there will be an announcement coming.
I think your
Yeah.
official statement you provided me was, we're always taking feedback from the community and the industry to see what works best, and we are excited for what we have planned for 2021. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like me.
Yeah.
So here's another quick one. RedFactor3 in Discord. Sorry, I'm not pulling you. I'm just stealing your question. But he asked, will OSH teams be able to participate in the new Academy Amateur format? And then a small follow-up is like, what are there any assurances to make sure that the OSH team just doesn't like fall apart? Even though I assume that there'd be lag issues, like, is there anything that's preventing them from participating?
No, there's nothing that would. So yeah, well, I'll answer both questions. There's nothing that would stop them from participating. Lag's obviously an issue. It's something that, like, from an organized kind of talent pipeline, we haven't prioritized because of COVID. Like, no one's coming over in the next 6 months for amateur competition, at least. We've had some initial discussions on how do we integrate OS players better in the amateur system in summer. What does scouting grounds look like in this new world, right? Should there be spots for OS players that are carved out, or how do we integrate them? A lot more questions than we have answers right now. We're a lot more focused on standing up all of our new systems for the beginning of the season. But once that's done, we'll turn to that. In terms of OS, we're still having conversations with a bunch of in that ecosystem about what competitive League of Legends looks like, even as soon as the beginning of 2021. A lot of questions to be answered there, but we don't want to just kind of walk away from all competition there. So we're doing our best to work with the folks who are on the ground there to help them put something back together.
All right.
I have one question though. This is a question coming in from Vienna in the chat. Is like, Will Wright, are they planning on capping buyout for players?
Yeah, I was about to get there. There's also a lot in general about LCS salary caps. I know we hit that one pretty frequently and why it's not a thing right now. But the cap on buyout is a new question that I'm very interested in.
And we'll make this the last question for Greeley, because Greeley was told to come on the show to talk about the Academy and amateur changes, and now we have
sorry, I didn't know
stolen his time to talk about these other things. But
no, all good. Wait, what was the question?
Sorry. So there's a lot of questions coming in about buyouts, because buyouts have. We've heard them skyrocket. Rumors are that these are in the millions frequently. Sometimes, like a multiple, like 5x over salaries.
Base salary, yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Is this something you guys talk about internally? Is it something you consider? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot. We talk about it with teams a lot. We talk about how out of control it is with teams that are paying those buyout fees, as well as teams that are charging those buyout fees. The problem is that when one person moves in the space, everybody has to move, or you get left behind. There are issues around capping buyout fees based on U.S. antitrust law, and being anti-competitive. So we always. I mean, it's the issue that we have that a lot of traditional sports don't have, because they have a collective bargaining unit that they can negotiate with. So it's the same reason that we can't have a hard salary cap. You can't tell teams you can't spend more than $4 million on your salary, and that's what it's locked at, and it changes based on league revenue. But we're talking a lot about what a luxury tax system could look like. It's a soft system. You're allowed to spend through it. You just get penalized for it. And really trying to have some conversations with the lawyers to figure out like what's cool and what's ultimately it goes further than the desire to just not be sued. But like we don't want to do things that are genuinely anti-competitive, that distort the marketplace or restrain a player's ability to play kind of at the highest price they can, from a willing buyer. At the same time, you worry about salaries spiraling out of control. I think like you see that a lot. I mean, that was the story of Major League Baseball. Probably still now, because I haven't followed it in a while, but 10, 15 years, everybody who came on the market wanted to have the biggest contract in history. So it went from 10 million a year to 12 million a year to 15 million, and it's kept climbing. So I'm not sure where LCS salaries are going. I don't know ultimately what will kind of slow the market down. And if I'm a player, I certainly don't want the market slowed down.
Right.
And if I'm a team, I worry that in order to get top tier talent on my team and keep my fans and keep my sponsors, that I'm going to have to spend more and more, even if that spending kind of outstrips not only revenue in hand, but like the potential for revenue. Right. There is a point where if you're an LCS team doing a couple $1 million in sponsorship and taking your league rev share, that you can outspend that pretty easily, even in today's market, if you're trying to build the super team. So those are all concerns, right? A sport can't be sustainable if the teams inside of it can't pay the bills and also pay players at the same time and stay competitive. League of Legends is not football or baseball, where you have fans who live in a city who are going to follow the team even when it's terrible. Like you see a lot of fan bases when their team goes to rebuild, when their team finishes outside of the playoffs, when they finish in last place, we're like, this team sucks, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to go find a new team or find a new player. And that gives our LCS teams this massive requirement to continue to spend for talent to try to stay towards the top of the standings.
The final thing I just want you to respond to, TSM Reginald in the chat said Chris Greeley uses Blitz app to train as the LCS commissioner. Can you respond to these accusations?
I will acknowledge that I do have the Blitz app installed on my computer. I have several other apps installed on my computer. None of them have helped me get any better.
Okay.
I don't think that's a fault of the Blitz app. That is certainly not a fault of Mobalytics. I think that really does. I think that's my problem.
Well, you're gonna have to figure that out if you want to end up in the LCS through 100T next and whoever else. Anyway, Cloud9, I guess. Anyway, thank you so much. I'm sure I'll get an angry message from your comms team later for us barraging you with so many questions that were unrelated to the academy and the amateur stuff. But I think it's really great to
They
hear
were
from you on this
tangentially
stuff.
related.
Yeah, they're all related. It's all one system.
It's all League of Legends. I don't get it.
I'm here, right? Like, might as well ask the questions that
Why couldn't you guys balance the preseason items better?
There we go.
you know I don't touch any of that stuff. I mean, come on. Quick shout out to The Dive, my favorite podcast when I'm not listening to Travis Gafford's podcast. And much like you, Travis, I would also like to thank Alienware, a proud host of the LCS.
I could not get to the server mute quickly enough to stop you from your dive promotion. Pity. Anyway, thank you so much, Greeley, for coming on. I really appreciate it. You're good to drop now, but I do appreciate the shout out. I appreciate you taking the time. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Okay, let's see how easily I can switch all this back to this. I think relatively easily as we redo this. We're gonna move Raz over. You're a little bit behind Greeley. Greeley's ghost.
I'm ducking to the camera.
I have tragic news. There's
What?
this cat in our apartment complex that used to get free food from one of our neighbors, but they moved, and now this street kitty is seducing Ashley into giving her treats. And so now this cat's going to start hovering outside our place. Great.
Just what I wanted. A third animal on this goddamn... Anyway. Now's as good a time as any to talk about Alienware. When we return from this break, we'll be taking calls about all the off-season rumors that we discussed in the first half of the show. Again, thank you to Greeley and Riot for taking the time to have them on. But first off, let's talk about Alienware. Raz, please stop distracting. I'm trying to do an ad. Okay? Have a little respect. Thank you so much to Alienware for supporting us. They do amazing things in the space. I have back here behind me, I have a computer with 3080. I've mentioned this, but I have a 3090 showing up soon. So I have not moved completely to this computer yet because I'm going to switch to the one with 3090. And boy, am I excited about that because there are so many fun games that I'm playing right now. Assassin's Creed Valhalla just came out. Very excited to get into that. I mean, I know Cyberpunk is hitting soon, so it's going to be fantastic to have this awesome computer. And by the way, this is a real story, by the way. I mean, what I just said was also real. I will be playing those games, but you might not believe this story, and I'm telling you to believe it. Alienware was actually very, very helpful for me today, because as I was developing my predictions and whatever video that I ended up splitting out into a bunch of different tweets and pinning up on YouTube, things were changing in the moment. Like, I heard different stuff from different sources and all that stuff, so I would film it and then I have to go back and change it. Anyway, having the fact that I have this great computer that can do all that, can help me export stuff, get everything out quickly enough that I can like turn on the stream, start talking about everything, is as news is breaking. Like, that's the literal example of like me on the cutting edge of all this news as it's sitting today, and having Alienware technology supporting me. So thank you so much to Alienware for their support. Be sure to check them out. They've got some holiday sales coming up soon. You can use Travis 10 off Q4 to save 10% off your order over at their website, which you can find the stuff that we use, and it's very helpful for me. If you check out this link, alienware.com/Travis, you can go do that. Hello, Reggie. Reggie's still in the chat. He's just been trolling all today. Reggie, by the way, I've been told that he's going to do an interview with me. Now, I was told he was going to do the interview with me after TSM went out at Worlds. And then I was told, okay, 2 weeks from now. And then the 2 weeks came, and then about an hour before the interview was supposed to take place, he postponed it.
No time like the present. If he's hanging out here, just hop on Discord. Let's talk about PoE.
Well, we're going to take some callers.
Huni.
I don't think he's going to come on. But
okay. He could be a caller.
But he did message me this past weekend and said, I'm ready. So I should have an interview with Reggie soon. Please, dear God, it's been a month, Andy. I've been waiting. I had a whole day set aside for this. Well, not a whole day. I had an afternoon set aside from it. Please make this happen.
He's a busy man,
Yeah.
Travis.
Yeah. Well, so am I.
Should I
I've
get
been
a caller?
streaming for 5 hours and 45 minutes. Yes. So, Mark, do you want to explain how this next part is going to work?
I'll explain it, but I'll be honest. There's a lot of people in here already. This is a live call-in show. If you would like to try and get on, you have to go up and join the Discord that I'm spamming in Twitch chat. Go ahead, click there. When you get there, you'll have to join one of the voice channels, pleb calls or sub calls. Once you're in there, mute your microphone so you're not mouth breathing on people. Then in the pleb topics or subtopics text channel, you will post what it is you want to talk about, which team you think won the offseason, who lost, whatever it is. I will then pull that call into the waiting room where you'll hang out until it is your turn to go on. We'll do a quick mic check, and then you will be here talking with us, and you'll have a clip that you can save for your parents or something. I don't know.
What? Okay. Anyway, if you are a sub, thank you for being a sub. Be sure to check out the subtopics channel. I know I've been terrible about reading any of them out tonight because we've gotten so many, but I do want to say really quickly, we broke 2,000 subscribers, which is awesome. I don't remember the last time I was at this number, maybe in 2018. So thank you so much to everyone who's subbing. I will, even if it is after the stream is done, I will read off every single person's name. So thank you for that.
And I'm going to say thank you for all of you guys for, of course, supporting Travis. But if you see an owner or a general manager in the chat, don't give them advice on roster. You don't fucking know enough. But I love you.
I think that's the best part. They show up and instantly everyone's like, why this? Why that?
We might have to. I know we have our first caller here. Caller, I apologize. I might have to send you back to the waiting room really quickly.
Uh-oh.
I apologize, but we'll be right back with you, caller.
What?
I'm sorting something out.
What? I
Reggie's
thought
actually
you were
coming
mad at
on.
the people.
I'm
Reggie's-
sorting something out.
Reggie's actually coming on. Here we go. I don't know if that's true. I'm just spreading rumors.
Excellent. This is the perfect time to just start spreading rumors. Conspiracy rumors is what I love to see.
Did you hear Chovy's coming now? Chovy the TSM.
Okay, we are joined right now by our first caller, Reginald. Reginald, where are you calling from?
I'm at my office right now.
Okay. Well, what would you like to talk about on the show tonight?
I just came in to say hi to you.
Okay.
I can't tell you who's on my roster because we haven't signed any contracts yet. By the way,
That's
so
fine.
I'd be breaking LCS rules.
That's fine.
And Chris Greeley would find me, dude.
He's probably still here. He's probably still waiting to try to find you. I think you tweeted that you've signed 0 contracts so far, or what was that, as Steve and everybody was tweeting out the contracts that they were signing? Yeah, 0 contracts signed, 2 more to go.
Yes,
so
that's right.
Yeah.
We're in the final phases of the agreements, and I think we're probably going to close it over the next 2 days or so. But it's still in the air right now.
Okay.
Anything can happen.
How has this offseason been for you? Because I assume it's been pretty crazy. I mean, especially with Bjerg, and whenever you and I do our longer interview, I'm sure we'll talk about all this stuff. But with Bjerg stepping down, has this just been like the craziest offseason for you ever?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that I mean, I could touch on this probably more in another interview, but
Sure.
to sum it up, it was something that we didn't expect, and it's something that Soren has thought about for a very long time. And I was really supportive, and he was super excited to become head coach, and so we worked together, and we actually were able to put together the exact roster we wanted from the get-go. And so I'm super happy.
Well, you said in my chat earlier today, our superstar support is more expensive than the bottom 2 LCS teams' salaries combined. Are you standing by that now that we're on voice?
Well, I mean, I was joking because I really don't know how much the other teams cost. I just know that some of the LCS teams this year went boom, and a lot of the teams are going minimum, and so there could be a world of that being the case, but like C9 could probably say the same thing about Perkz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went big this year. I think we're probably going to be one of the top spenders in the league, if not the top.
Oh boy, holy crap! If you are beating out, I assume C9 has a crazy number. So if you beat them out, that's
same with
crazy.
TL even.
Oh yeah, TL.
Well, I think on an annual basis, right? So.
Gotcha.
So with C9 with what they did, obviously for year 1 it would be higher.
Yeah, buyouts and stuff. Yeah.
But Jack, big congrats to Jack. He went huge.
Yeah.
So on the whole, Bjergsen retiring thing, it's interesting because TSM has only ever had 2 mids in the history of the org, and I don't think it's even really close for any other season 1 era orgs. Like, is it weird at all to be moving into like the 3rd? Do you see it as eras, or is it just like a position or a roster, a player kind of thing?
Well, it's hard to see it as an era as a person that runs the team, right? That's so close to it. But I can see how that is, just because so far we've had such great success with that position in particular, and it's kind of ironic that the name is named after that position. And I mean, if you really think about it, it's surprising, right? Not to talk my career up, but and many people probably don't follow it, but I was pretty dominant in my time too.
Yeah.
And Soren stepping in, I actually didn't think that he was going to be able to live up to expectations, and he definitely did. And so he was like a really great era too. So I think that transitioning to a PoE, I think he's gonna have to live up to big expectations, but I think he certainly can. He's been on pretty bad teams and has had massive success. So
so like Twitch chat saying the blue card, and like, does it ever chafe you at all, like that people always just meme the biggest like those plays, despite like you were actually super good for your time, like you're the best mid in NA. Only until like high really developed was it seriously contested, I don't think. Do you ever like goddamn blue card memes?
Did we lose Reggie?
People are saying that I'm gonna get fined, but nothing is signed yet, guys. We
Transitioning
haven't signed anyone yet.
You were talking about
right over
transitioning.
it. I bulldozed right over it for you.
You were talking about transitioning to Path of Exile.
Yeah.
The organization is going to be playing Path of Exile.
I can't wait for the next big Path of Exile patch. Whatever. What is it? 4.0 is coming.
Reggie.
Yeah. Path of Exile.
Path
of Exile is a really great game, guys.
Let's ignore Mark's question and go with this. Would you do me a favor for the previous team TSM mid laners? Would you power rank them for me? Where would you rank the past 2 TSM mid laners?
wait. Think about this, guys. I actually won WCG right at the height of NA when NA was like dominant internationally, and so it's pretty clear, right?
Did you win any? You won some IEMs too, right?
I actually don't remember, but like I mean, I always should talk to Wolf because we're just like competitors, but he didn't win against me that much back in the day.
That's true. It's true. TSM was very
but
dominant.
but obviously I think that after I retired, the competition became much more competitive, and I also had a huge leg up because I played the game really early on, and I went full time in the game, right? So whereas like most of my competitors still had to go to school or playing part time, I just went all in and I dropped out of school and I played League full time. So I had even though I was better, I had a serious advantage compared to everyone else. So
That's true.
I can't really give myself too much credit either.
I mean, you
say.
made the jump when other people probably would not.
You got the New York house before. I think that was the first League gaming house in NA at least.
Yeah.
Hey Reggie, I actually have a question. Did you feel like the news for Bjergsen turning into a coach is like generating excitement, making it easier for you to like find talent? Because like listening to how former and even current players for TSM like talk about like the leadership and like knowledge that Bjergsen had as a mid laner, it felt like everyone just feels like he'd make like an incredibly natural coach. So did you feel like it was easier?
Sword has a really strong strategic mind for the game, and so it really did help recruit talent in the offseason. Everyone was really excited to work with him. And I think he's going to make a fantastic coach because he's always been a really strong leader for our organization. I think that he's going to play maybe an even bigger role than before. So we'll have to see, right? But you never know, right? It's going to be his first year. But I have a lot of faith in him, and if we run into problems first year, I think that he's only going to get better. And so he's someone I really believe in. I think he's going to be really strong in the long run. I got to go in 1 minute, guys.
That's fine. Anything
before I get in trouble. What?
Is anything you want to shout out?
I'll be happy to go on and talk about our roster once we've actually signed any of our players and have gotten league approval before we discuss anything further.
Well, I'm excited for you guys to play Path of Exile. I think it's going to be a big expansion for the league, and hopefully Greeley is not on the phone calling you right now. Anyway, thanks so much, Andy, for the call.
All right, see you. Bye.
Yeah,
see it.
Okay.
I actually didn't even know what the fuck you guys meant with Path of Exile. I was like, why are you talking about another fucking game? Like, all right, that's it.
God.
I was so out of it.
I just tried to grab anything to move on to quickly, but
yes,
it didn't.
Yes. I mean, we are not here to try to get anybody in trouble. Let's put it that way.
No, I'm not. I'm just here for a good time, man.
Love Hotline League. So fun. You never know what's going to happen when you tune in.
Who's going to drop in next? Steve's going to show up and announce Alphari?
I think that
whichever top we grab next.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready for the callers?
Yes, hopefully this caller is not feeling too bad about getting bumped for Andy.
For Reggie, yeah. Sorry, guys.
Boba Cola gifted a sub to Nick. Thank you. Oh God, we have so many subs right now. 2026. Thank you, everybody. Today has been insane. Oh boy, we're gonna cap it all off with a bounty stream after this. How you doing, Raz?
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
Raz, are you feeling? We're in hour 3, Raz. Do you feel baited? Are you gonna be sending me angry messages after this?
I mean, if I actually had something for the Monday, then I'd be concerned and I'd tell you, fuck you, Travis. But you caught me at my open day, so
fantastic. I'm glad we made this work. By the way, thank you to everybody contributing to the scam train in the chat right now. I9 Gaming's is here. I9 Gaming's, where are you calling from?
Georgia.
Well, great. What do you want to talk about on the show?
This one's going to get flamed pretty hard, but I'm going to go ahead and say that CLG's projected roster, and for reference, the projected roster is coming from Travis's video with his final projections or whatever that I watched earlier today.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead and say that CLG, with its current projected roster, will finish top 4 in the LCS.
There we go. He's going
like how Raz just starts muttering.
Yeah, he's gone and said it.
He's done it.
Finn, Broxton, Wildturtle, Smoothie. Who's the top 3?
I'm probably gonna say TL if the rumors are correct, and then C9 obviously, and then probably TSM will be in that ballpark.
Okay.
No respect to Hundo Thundo.
Nope, none.
Oh,
Damn.
Jesus. Well, no respect to Golden Guardians. Very incomplete roster.
Yeah,
Their
that's,
question marks are looking
whatever.
really good. I'm liking their question marks.
Yeah. Anyway.
Submit will get you.
Okay, so why do you think this roster is the fourth best roster in the LCS next year as projected at the moment?
Well, I'm just saying, you guys did flame pretty hard, including you, Raz, and you, Mark. Just saying. But I don't know much about Finn. Like, I really don't know much about Finn right off the get-go. But I don't think Pobelter's bad. And I don't think Broxa is bad either. I think his transition was probably meh at best, and I think he was really passive. But I think that if he gets aggressive between him and Pobelter, I mean, history states that these guys can win championships. Those two guys can. And I don't know about Smoothie. I think he's a question mark. But if you flip Turtle for, I don't know, let's say Sneaky, or even Turtle himself, they might be able to make something happen in the bot lane, or at least not lose. And I just think their top lane is going to get smashed.
You know who else had a history of winning world championships? Crown.
We ain't gonna talk about that.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think that having, and by the way, that was world championship, not just. So
Yeah.
I just don't think that having a player that has won something in the past necessarily means that they're going to be the most competitive this year or next
True.
year.
But I think, top four, I mean, you might slot them down maybe one or two positions, but I don't think that they're going to be in the bottom end of the pack.
Mark?
So what I'll say, is this is North America, and some teams will boom, and I think to get middle of the pack, you don't need to be dominant in skill. I think, teamwork and how you approach the game and how you work together shouldn't be undervalued. And so there's a chance that this group of guys gels real good. They can, win some games in mid to late game. I mean, Immortals in spring for a period of time was like what our first through fourth place team before they slumped at the end and just barely missed playoffs, basically off the fact that they won a bunch of games in the late game. So yeah, the CLG can finish middle of the pack, but I also don't think I would never bet on it. Never. I just don't think they have any real weapon. Like, what is the guy that you're playing around? Who is getting you these wins? You have a bunch of players who I don't think they're they're not terrible. They're not like bottom of the barrel players, but there's just not really someone who has ever been the primary threat on their team. And maybe Finn can do it because I know he can play carries, but that's not what he's been asked to do so far.
I mean, Dominate is in the chat right now. He's Finn on carries is the win condition. So
yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it is. But he hasn't had to do that at the LEC level, really. Maybe he can get done at the LCS level.
So the take here is that they'll be a top 4 team.
And you got real close to that microphone.
Yes, I did. So the take here is that they'll be a top 4 team, and we've mentioned that like I feel like it's impossible for TL, TSM, and C9 for like the projected teams to be worse. And if you just look at 100 Thieves, because it kind of got glossed over. Like, wait a second, like, did we not just see the same last split? Like, are we not what happened to the whole discussion about FBI and Hui being the best bot lane last split? Like, where was that conversation, or at least the second best? Like, if we're talking about tactical and core JJ, like, if you want to put that, fine. Bless you, do that. What about closer? Top 2, top 3. Depending on where you want to put Blabber and Santorin. Santorin, I would say, is number 1. Okay, so you not only are saying that the best, like a top 3 jungler and closer, a top 2 bot lane, Demonte, and then someday. This for sure. Like, I was already kind of, when we were having this conversation about this team, I already mentioned the fact that like they're looking for a championship. I'm looking at this squad that you just mentioned, and you already said Pobelter is like basically the main ticket for this team. That was the same case last year. They were bottom 2, even with Pobelter playing incredibly well. By the way, like Pobelter did not have a bad year at all. It was the team as a whole, and you can say that Broxa coming in with the experience that he has, for sure the better player in between him and Wiggly. Like I agree with that. And there's a question mark on Finn. Like I'm not saying coming out and flatly and putting CLG as a last place team. I think it would be foolish to do so before we even see what the rest of these rosters look like, right? But the top 4, that's wild. That's crazy for me. So we're not even like talking about the fact that FlyQuest picked up Palafox, Diamond, Licorice. I think those are 3 strong players as well. So Licorice finding a home. Yeah. It's in the end of the day, while you look at these players and you say individually, like, I like the look of all of these players from CLG as a team, and competitively compared to the teams that I just mentioned, they're worse pound for pound. And then you said Smoothie ? Like, we just saw him this year. Like, there's no question mark. He's a player we have actual history on. So that's the only thing that I wanted to hit. I'm not saying they're a last place team, but bottom 4 team, yeah, sure. I think so.
Yeah, the only reason why.
Spicy.
So I don't think they're going to be top 4. The only reason why I think it's okay to be not like, oh, this is a 10th place team, is because so many teams are going to be, they're just hard coin flipping next year with their rosters, from what we can tell, right? Like, is this Immortals roster going to be okay, middle of the pack? Like, I feel like Immortals roster could be anywhere from like 10th place team or 11th place team all the way up to 4th, you know. Similarly, you know, we don't know what Golden Guardians is going to pull out. So I think there's a chance that there's just a lot of teams that are in development year and are spending their onstage time essentially working at scripts. What are you pointing at, Mark?
What Raz is pointing at.
Oh, okay. Yes. So yes, 100T looks good, for sure, with their projected thing. And yes, CLG does not look as good as, yep, and 100T does look as good. Sorry, podcast listeners. But well, we're gonna have to see how things go. I don't think CLG is gonna be 4th. I just flat out disagree with the take. But I could see there being some really weird shit going on at the bottom of the LCS in a way that we haven't really seen before. So I'm curious to see how it goes. I9 Gaming, sorry, we're kind of low on time, but is there anything you want to shout out or say at the end here?
Not really. Just a long-time fan. Watched for a long time. And I think you guys are going to be surprised because, I don't know, just looking at the ceiling. Like, if they play at the top of their game, because I think a lot of their careers depend on, honestly. Like, we got a lot of new talent coming in, and I think that if they know that and they play at the top of their game, the best they've ever played, then I think that they really do have a shot, because I just can't see Broxa just getting out jungled by just anyone. And Pobelter at the top of his game is pretty good. So it depends on Finn and then the AD carry slot.
You're using the Hotline League caller favorite, which is their ceiling. Just if they all play to their best, if they all play to their ceiling. But like, the problem is, once you do that for your team, as we've already said before, you have to start doing it for other teams. What does like 100T look like playing at their ceiling? What does, I don't know, some of these other teams look like?
I think Ssumday is gonna roll people if he plays at his ceiling.
Yeah.
Yes! I think that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much, i9 Gamings, for the call. And we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks.
Have a good one.
Thank you. And I'm by the way, I love calls like these. You want hot takes. You don't want someone else saying, yes, I think that 100 Thieves will be a 4th place team exactly, much like every other fucking person in the chat, right? Like,
what is this accent you're affecting?
I was like kind of French.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some sort of Europe. This person has moved from Europe when they were 12 and moved to the US and is calling in now. Anyway, you want to grab the next caller, Mark? I guess let's see if I can catch up on some of these subs. i9 Gaming, thank you for the 10 gifted subs earlier. It was just on the show. Flick Nickum, Captain Crunchy, St. Louis Slayer at 29 months, Clancy 94, Lyser GFM, GT Karma, and Nonchalance. And we got LOL User here. Great generic name. Where are you calling from?
Calling from North Dakota.
North Dakota. Very exciting. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, super exciting state. Yeah, so my take is C9 didn't lose the offseason, but Licorice lost the offseason.
C9 didn't lose the Licorice or the offseason. That is one of the coldest takes, but you're saying Licorice lost. So why do you say this?
Yeah, so to expand on that, he was the best or second best top laner in North America by far, but he ended up getting sold in that package deal, and now every one of his teammates is a downgrade. Even though these new players have potential, Jose Diodo is worse than Blabber, Palafox is worse than Niski, Deftly is worse than Sven, and Diamond is worse than Vulcan.
I mean, it's hard to
kinda
argue
hard
with
to-
too much of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wow.
I mean, it's like I'm optimistic about FlyQuest, you know, and I don't think Licorice would ever say anything, but like you got to imagine that you went from like one of the greatest North American teams of all time. Yeah, you stumbled. We're gonna run it back into like, okay, I'm getting replaced, but hopefully I can go to another like dominant team. Like I'm a hot piece on the market. You know, maybe TSM will buy me out. Maybe one of these other. Maybe I can get to TL to like package deal to kind of a rebuilding org. You know, no flame at FlyQuest, but
I mean, they literally replaced every single one of their players, seemingly.
Right.
So, like, I don't think it's flame to say they are rebuilding this year.
and 3 of the other 4 members on your team have probably never started in the LCS.
So,
There we go.
yeah, I think the year in which Perkz joins your team is not the year in which you want to get traded. For sure. Licorice must be really, really unhappy with that OCE change. Like, I'm sure a lot of OCE teams and players are unhappy with what happened. Licorice probably chief among the people who are unhappy with this change.
I think people like Spawn, whose orgs kind of got killed, might be a little bit mad at that.
It's just,
That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah. I'll give it to that one. I think that's the winner. He gets the
But like-
championship for that one, being upset.
But Licorice is probably amongst North American pros number 1.
Yeah. I mean, Spawn ended up on a great team in North America where he drafted another player named Spawn. So I feel like he's doing okay. Okay, well, I mean, to Raz's point, this is that he made in the last one, which is like, you want hot takes. I mean, this is a good take, but I gotta say, like, I think this is gonna be one of those ones where we all just kind of agree and sort of put what Sage in the chat. Is that what the kids are saying now? Sage for Licorice. Mark,
I
is
don't know
that
if it was Sage or Sag. I always thought it was Sag.
It's Sag.
I think
Oh
it's
my
Sag.
God, Travis, you boomers, stop
It's pretty
it.
boomer.
It's been around for a hot minute. You know,
What?
it's not like this is a flavor of the week. You know, it's actually on the way out, probably.
Oh my goodness, it's like Sage. And it was back to the caller's point, because although I will say a LoLUser being an average name, and then of course I wouldn't say that it's an average take. So one thing I'll pick up on this one is people will have like some disagreements on Palafox versus Niski. I want to give Niski a lot of credit, because I think they're just completely different types of players, where Niski will play for, like, you know, the roam. He'll play for jungle and rotate a lot. Palafox is a bit different. You'll play for Palafox a bit more. But man, Palafox is talented. So I'm really happy that Palafox got the opportunity, and it sucks that he won't get, like, for me at the very least, it sucks that I won't get to see a Niski versus Palafox, because Niski's is back in Europe. But I think Palafox is really talented, and people will be able to get to watch him play. Like, the Palafaker like nickname is fucking coming back. So I'm happy to see it.
Yeah. I mean, okay, LoLUser, what do you think of this team, though? Okay, it's a downgrade from where he could be playing with C9. What is your take on the FlyQuest roster as it's projected?
Based on what I've seen, I'd probably say 5 through 7, maybe. I mean, it's a lot better than I would have thought, seeing that they're losing their entire roster, though.
Man's got reasonable takes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, we agree with you, LoLUser. Good job. You win this round.
Thanks.
Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
No, shout out Alienware, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. All right, on to the next caller. I can show my face again. Bulin, thank you for the tier 1. Dodis name work, thank you for the prime. Bearman 499, i9 Gamings with the 500 bits. Jingles, KC, Frost Whisper, Yesterdog, Dorvinsky, Rob Shabatsky, Ash, Justinide, Sam Z, Gingmeyer with a tier 2, and Kai Madras. Oh, Mark is still not here. Eternal, Raytech, thank you for the 4. Stanzy, Broken Cat, is that what it is? Chenfasa, gifted a sub, thank you. KRGB Nelson, Nordified, Rico Suave. And looks like Mark is back with our caller, Rico Suave, 30 months by the way. Phenom, you've been on the show before, I feel like.
No, it's my first time.
Every time I always think that it's... Sorry, maybe you've subbed a lot?
No.
What do you want to talk about?
Keep reaching, Travis.
Wait, where are you
Keep
calling
reaching.
from? Where are you calling from?
I'm from Quebec, Canada.
Okay.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I was gonna ask about if PoE was confirmed from TSM, but I feel like our first caller kind of ruined the question. So I'm gonna pivot into asking like, how does the free agent day work in LCS? Because like I don't know how traditional sports work, and kind of curious like how those work in LCS. For example, for PoE, like the rumors were like last week. He was ready to sign with TSM, but it's still not announced. So I was wondering like, can they discuss the contract ahead of time and then just announce it today, or like do you have to wait?
This is a great question. So, the way this works is you cannot sign anything. You cannot put ink on paper until today. Actually, the 16th of November, and it was at 4 p.m. Pacific. And so what you can do beforehand is teams can go and agree to terms. That's why you'll see a lot of people say like they've agreed to terms or a verbal commitment or something like that. And so you can have things lined up so that you can sign the contract the moment 4 o'clock hits. That's why you saw Steve and Jack tweeting how many contracts they had signed, because they had everything lined up for that moment. And if you are under contract, you are not, within the LCS rule set, allowed to talk to other teams or have your agent talking to other teams or whatever, unless the team that you are signed for gives you permission. That's why you will frequently see people tweet out things like, oh, I'm under contract until this date, but this team has given me permission to talk to other entities, or other teams. So that's kind of how that works. Does that make sense for you, Phenom?
Yeah, okay, I understand. But like, for example, PoE, right? Like they said like you said like he was ready to sign last week, so, and Reg just said like nobody signed. So like, what would like make it delay the contract signing?
Well, you can't sign anything. No one can sign anything until today at 4.
Okay, well, I mean, like they could have agreed to terms, and then like today they just have to sign, right? So like technically they could have announced it today.
Why didn't they announce it today?
Yeah,
Yeah, like if TL has contracts done or whatnot, why?
Yeah,
not
or
do that?
TSM has contracts done.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy said he had not signed anything yet, so maybe that means they are just working out the fine points, or sometimes like understand that there's lawyers. Some of this stuff gets decided very late in the game. Now, obviously, supposedly the PoE one didn't. I don't have a great answer for you as to why it sounds like PoE did not sign like paperwork with TSM. Maybe TSM just got the paperwork to him recently. He's got a lawyer reviewing it. Who knows? Maybe things are complicated because some of these players have to have like visas and all this kind of stuff like transferred over. So there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people aren't necessarily thinking about.
Maybe he saw that DRX Chovy news, and the PoE thing was a big bait. He showed up.
Actually, a question that I would have to Travis here, I feel like I should probably know, but I just don't ask this question, is that like if it comes to that 4 o'clock timer, have they seen the contract beforehand, or are they just guarded by not signing the contract?
Yeah, I assume that I don't know. I assume based off of the fact that Jack was tweeting, I mean, I think you could see a contract. I don't see any reason why you couldn't. You just can't agree to it. The fact that Jack was tweeting like DocuSign screenshots and stuff like that and signing stuff so quickly implies to me that they were sending the stuff around beforehand. So yeah, that is my understanding, is that you can definitely send contracts or terms or anything like that. You just can't agree to anything, because there's it's like it would be very weird if the rule was like you can have these conversations, but no document with anything on it. It is like it starts to
So
get
you
really
have
weird
to
at that point
read
in
the
time.
contract out loud.
Yeah, that's why whenever I hear something like teams have reached a verbal agreement, my thing would always be like, well, maybe there's not a paper trail on it.
It's because it's verbal. It's not. It's like, yes, I will do this, because you cannot agree to anything on paper, because then it's a contractually binding agreement. So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I thought it was just like, yeah, okay, it's fine. That's good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Phenom.
All right. Yeah, that answers my question.
Cool. All right, very good. Well, hey, thank you so much. Anything you want to shout out before we move on to the next caller?
No, shout out to Alienware, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, very good. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
All right. We've got a couple more callers coming up. What?
Shout out to the Quebecois squad. Got them out here in force.
Eternal Raytech, thank you for the 4 months. Stanzy. Oh, wait. I got those already. Penetration, thank you for the 3 months. Merchant of Soul, thank you for the 16. CG Gladiator for the 6. Red Rain gifted 5 subs. Fish Sticks resubbed for 18 months. Boba Cola gifted to It's Otter Space and Nick Allen. Nick Allen has been a sub, I don't think, without spending any money on this channel for 20 months. Jew, thank you for the tier 1. Single Father, thank you for the Prime. Taranth, thank you for the Prime. Itragan, Tralna, Blue Pigman for the bits. Nick Ahmed, Senpai, please, for the year. Pibopoli, Rathnix. Still waiting on Mark. Red Rain gifted a sub, and Itragan gifted a sub. We're almost caught up. Atharva is here. Atharva, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm from King of Prussia, Pennsylvania.
Where in Pennsylvania?
King of Prussia. They have a giant ass mall here. That's like our.
Oh, I've driven through there.
Really?
Yeah. I have family in I have family in Lancaster, so.
Oh, really? Yeah.
America has some weird names for towns. Let me put that out there.
You go through Pennsylvania, they got some of the weirdest. Pennsylvania's town names and shit are whack.
Yeah. We're known for our giant ass mall. It's now the biggest in America, I believe, square footage wise. So that's what we got going.
There we go.
Great. What do you want to talk about on the show?
What the fuck, Travis? Respect man's culture and heritage. Anyways, go on.
The mall is their culture and heritage?
I said it was, Travis. Please stop disrespecting your guests.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of the show. This is my first time ever being on, so I'm super stoked about it. So I have a slightly skeptical take on the Perkz situation or acquisition for Cloud9, assuming it goes through. I think it will, because everyone's saying it will, and I'll be really disappointed if it doesn't. I think it's a massive gamble for C9. Yes, Perkz is a better player, objectively, I think. But if his playstyle doesn't mesh with Blabber, there is, I think, a world where they don't make Worlds again this year. And I think that's a skeptical take, and I'm much more in favor that they'll do much better. But Niski enabled Blabber, whereas Jankos enabled Perkz for a majority of their runs. So basically, this C9 has a higher international upside, and in my opinion, could be like a top 6 team at Worlds, or they could boom. But yeah, that's my take.
Oh, that's actually, I really like this take. It's really interesting. Mark, you're making a face, I feel like.
No, I was intrigued. That's why I was excited to hear Raz, but I can go first. No.
If Raz make a facial expression first. I normally know to go to Raz if he's made a facial expression like that. Okay, he's made one. Raz, what do you think of this?
What the hell? Go, Mark. What? He's just trying to push this one along.
I think there's some truth to the caller's point. Like, it's not about doubting Perkz. It's about why that C9 roster from before was so good, and if Perkz can just insta swap in, because Perkz played in spring, he was pretty good, but he hasn't been like a dedicated mid laner for a while now. And to the caller's point, I would never call Perkz a greedy mid laner, because I don't think he's like a you have to play to him type. I don't think he's perma pushed up and if you don't gank his lane, you're gonna die or anything like that. He's good at 1-3-1. He has a great macro sense. I think he brings a lot of leadership qualities that Niski seemed to have some as well, but I think Perkz has a lot of intangibles, so to speak. That said, I can see a world where Blabber does see the game more differently than Jankos. Jankos is really, really, I think, smart and prepared and knows what he wants to do. I think Blabber's a little bit more instinctive and he's going to like scrap it out. And I think Niski was kind of a ride or die type. And I don't know if Perkz will be 100% that way. And so I could see a world where there is less synergy and these two players don't quite see the game the same way. And it could lead to a worse overall team performance. Also, because remember, there's Fudge in here as well, compared. But I don't think I agree, because I do think the skill increase is substantial enough that some of the issues, like even if the synergy isn't, to use a buzzword, isn't quite as strong, like Perkz is just so good.
Okay. I think that I'm just quickly double checking 2018, because I already know the recent splits to just solidify my point here. Okay. Yeah. So my thing is Perkz is an insanely fucking good talent that actually can play through any style of play. When G2 is changed up from being, mid-centered and mid-focused around assassins to being, or even mages, to being more around like facilitating Yankos, like he was always been able to kind of fit that, or to Trick is a great example too. He's been able to play both styles incredibly well. The reason why I kind of dislike the comparison to C9 in summer is that, like, by all means, this should not be the expectation for a team this talented and dominant to like not make worlds. like
Yeah.
The fact this should never fucking happen again. Like,
I really fucking hope so.
yeah, like that is not a precedent. Like that should continue. So I think it is a valid question to figure out, not only if they can a question on Perkz playing to Blabber, but more so for me, just Blabber being more flexible to play around others, because he's had for a full year of Niski being stylistically like playing to Blabber. That my biggest question is if the meta changes, so you do need to play towards like an Akali pick. If that just happens, because we all know how the balance for the game can be like, right? That you can't just ignore the meta. Like, there are teams that have tried to done it, and it's like sometimes you can't do it. I want to see how flexible Blabber is. That's my question. So as for Perkz, I'm full confidence. Full confidence he can do it. Maybe he has to ramp up because he's playing AD carry for a full split, but I think he's just too fucking good of a player. I have full confidence behind him. I just want to see how flexible Blabber can be if the meta changes.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
We had a caller come in earlier that said Licorice lost the offseason because every player he's playing with is worse than the players he played with previously. Is there a world where you could say the same thing about Perkz?
I mean, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I love that response. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I guess the only change would just be the dollar sign, I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah. His bank account won the offseason. I guess
his bank account definitely is banging right now.
Part of me would like to say it's less drastic, but I also don't even know if that's necessarily true, because FlyQuest players are such an unknown, and G2 had such high highs, World Finals competing and winning MSI, like it could be comparable. It's also just weird because he's also role swapping, so it's like I got to compare myself to Caps, and I'm comparing myself.
It's more like
also to Sven.
I think you compare Sven and Caps is the way that I would do that.
Yeah.
I will say, of course, I would still want to know what the AD carry change will be for G2, and we'll see soon enough. But my question is, like, I want to see, everyone will want to see where C9 ends up, because for me, this roster, I think a viewer actually said this a few shows ago, or just like last show, like the expectation for C9 would be like semifinals or finals or worlds, because they've hit semifinals with a lesser known or a less strong roster, quote unquote. This one is just so stacked, like conceptually, that their goal would be to make it to a semifinals. Meanwhile, G2 have literally done that and made finals. So yeah, this is a downgrade. But the potential for C9 is pretty much unknown.
Very good. Well, hey, Atharva, what do you think of sort of the conversation we had here?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love the takes. I'm like unbelievably stoked for this. Perkz is my second favorite player of all time, and the fact that he's on my favorite team now, I'm just super excited to watch the next season. It's going to be a blast. I really hope that you guys are right and we do well. And I think that we will. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Who's first?
No sneaky, no worlds.
Jensen.
Okay.
He's always been my favorite.
Oh, so you get to see your two favorite players face off.
Yeah, actually, that's another thing. Like, I'm hoping that the Perkz Blabber situation works out like Jensen Blabber, because they were an amazing duo when they were swapping between Svenskeren and Blabber. So that's my hope. Like, they play it similarly style wise.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Very good. Well, hey, thank you so much, Atharva, for the call, and we will catch you.
Can I give a one quick shout out?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You're dang you guys do that, Travis.
No, I just want to give a shout out to my brother whose birthday was yesterday, and he's a massive TSM fan. And we agreed for a week to not check Reddit or Twitter so that we could be surprised during the offseason. And he was sure that Perkz was going to TSM. So I'm just a huge hee XD in his face. I'm so happy. Now, number two, I want to give a huge shout out to one of my favorite casters, LS. My heart goes out to him. I know he's in a tough place right now. And I hope that there's hearts in the chat for LS. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, and by the way, I think it's very funny that you're like, my brother's birthday was yesterday, so now let me mock him publicly in front of 6,000 people.
Oh, we fucking shit on each other all the time when it's C9 versus TSM. It's too much fun. Yeah.
Well, anyway, thanks so much, Atharva, and a good call on the LS. Shout out. We hope he's doing okay. Thank you.
Thanks
a lot.
All right.
I want to see a T1 take. I want to hear that. Let's see if we get that.
We generally avoid stuff outside of NA, but if somebody wants to do that, I don't know. Maybe Mark pulled somebody.
Okay. Get the fire from Raz of that shit. I want to. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
Anyway, we're
gonna get drama, guaranteed drama, Travis. If you get a T1 segment, is what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, you'll have to tell Mark that. Danny Saltzman, thank you for the Prime Blueprint Paint. 5 gifted subs from Nodak. I appreciate it. Death. Oh, I almost just lost it. Where am I? Death by Farming, Hans Harrison, and Surly Kangaroo. Great name, by the way. ExO Kaboom is here. ExO, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Jensen Beach, Florida.
Jensen Beach, Florida. Team Liquid should have an event there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What do you want to talk about on the show? What do you want to talk about on the show?
For me. Yeah, so my take is I think 100 Thieves won the offseason, in my opinion, mostly because we kind of talked about it earlier, how their new team is going to be near the top, probably top 4, maybe fighting for top 3 in a world spot. But I think it actually shows that they are in win now mode while also building for the future. And I can kind of touch into that with their academy and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, go for it. Why? I mean, winning offseason sounds like a really bold claim to make whenever our teams are bringing in Alphari and Perkz, but and Huni. But what do you? Why do you think they won more than other teams?
Well, mostly because what I've seen on 100 Thieves takes is that some fans are kind of upset that they kind of quote unquote blew up their roster and didn't give some players a chance. But I think that the way in which they did it, they're obviously very strong in 2021, at least it looks like. You can kind of pretty much take Golden Guardian's roster, throw on Ssumday, which is an upgrade over Hanser, and you can see what they could be. But if you look into their academy system, it's there's a little bit more depth to it than I think people realize. And you can kind of go position by position. So if you look at their top lane academy, they have Tenacity there for next year, which Tenacity, and you can kind of throw Kenvi in there, which is a jungle. So I'll do the first two at the same time. Those two would have been in scouting grounds this past weekend and would have been two of the best players probably in there, because it was kind of the discussion in amateur was between those two as I think it was Shoryu was the 3 like best, quote unquote, best amateurs from the past season. So if you think about it that way, 100 Thieves kind of got like the number 1 and number 2 or number 3 pick in the draft this past weekend. So they have 2 solid positions there. Also, you can look at Poom. I think the argument is that Poom probably is going to be on Academy for a year. And even though he didn't kind of pan out, he showed a little bit of flash with his with some of his play. You can tell he's kind of raw. So I think it'll be good for him to have a full year of academy underneath his belt. And then the other positions, Ryoma is, I think he's under contract for 2022, so 2 more years. And he's still a young player. I don't think 100 Thieves fans are going to be too thrilled about it, but I think if you give Ryoma a chance with a full year of academy, you could tell watching him last year, he was feeling the pressure. Like anytime anybody said, like kind of criticize him, he was definitely feeling the pressure. So I think a year under academy, if he can show like improvement there, so that's the 4th position. The only one I don't know is AD carry, but their 100 Thieves next AD carry was just drafted 2nd overall this past weekend. So you could tell they had a plan, but they kind of pivoted, used that draft pick, traded it to Golden Guardians. And so they had a plan for AD carry too. 4 of their 100 Thieves next players, I think, were in scouting grounds this past week. The only one that wasn't was Fallen Bandit because he was their coach. So that was their top lane. But otherwise, 3 of those 4 players were drafted this past week. So you can clearly see they're good at developing talent, and they have a position in every academy spot, except maybe AD carry because they just lost it this past weekend. So I have confidence they'll find a good AD carry for academy. So I think they have a really good roster for 2021, possibly 2022, because most of the players, like DeMonte's only, I think, 22 years old.
We're running short on time, so I want to cut in. I think we've got the gist of your message. Mark, I'm gonna throw to you because I know Raz is just gonna be like, yeah, they won the offseason. Sorry, continue or go ahead, Mark.
All right, go on.
No, Raz, you sound like you have a strong take.
First of all, because I'm sorry, Carl, you went on for a while. So what is your take here? That they just won the offseason?
That they won the offseason.
They won the offseason, not just based off LCS. He's saying because they did well in LCS and their academy system is still seemingly working well.
Okay, because they lost Fake God and Saligo, and I thought they were both on the upper end of academy, so I felt like they failed on that one. I really wanted to see them either use Fake God or sell him, but it felt like they just kind of dropped their contracts. So like that's one thing that I felt like kind of sucked in terms of bringing up talent. I thought Saligo was actually really good. I know a lot of people will only remember Saligo from when he played in LCS about like a year or so ago, but in academy he was like for sure an incredible talent. So I for sure, like, especially when they were playing this year, I thought he was better than Ryoma, and I would have wanted to see him play in that regard. But yeah, that's my side. So from an academy perspective, I do think that them bringing up their 103 next player is great. And then, yeah, just go with what Travis said. Yeah. Like they definitely got some damn good talent. So you can go along with this one, Mark.
I can't say they won the offseason, man. Not when Perkz, assuming that goes through, assuming the TL moves work. I mean, they've upgraded 2 of their positions then while still having a really solid core. There's too many other moves. I think it's a great move, but the talent development side, to Raz's point, like, I don't think I appreciate what they're doing. I appreciate them bringing these players and investing in them, but like you didn't. How do I put this? Because I don't want to say they're not developing players, but like you didn't find a player, work with them, and then put them in. Like what happened with Fudge, or some of these other moves that have gone on. It wasn't like this person grew up through your org and now they're your starter. None of the people that they were investing in have really started for them this year. So in that sense, I don't think that they develop, like their investment into these players has not yet paid off yet. It might in the future. They're still investing in them, but it hasn't paid off yet. And because they didn't get money, like Raz is saying, like a buyout from Fake God, who looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely longer term. I think they do have great players in their academy system now, and they were the team that went for the 100 Thieves next. So like it's still like up in the air that it will pay off for them. But what they did was just they wanted to win now, so they got Gold Guardians players.
They bought another team that was winning.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see the pivot. I mean, we'll talk, I'm sure, about 100 more over the next couple months, but I don't know if anybody saw, there was that Nade Shot clip where he's like, the problem with the LCS is the journalists and the fans all expect you to just always be winning, and or something to that extent. And I think we gave a lot of praise to 100T for 100T next for taking risks, etc. And so it is kind of funny that then in 2021 it's like, this doesn't feel like you're still taking risks. It looks like you threw out the stuff you were working with last year, and
Papa hadn't sent the email yet telling him what the plan was.
Yeah.
You know who took risks though? You know who developed the talent?
Cloud9. Fudge is
Golden
going to be great. I'm a big fan of
give Raz the credit. Let's go Golden Guardians.
Kaboom.
I felt like you know FBI going through the system, who he coming in as a support, even when the fans were against all of these changes. Demonte was a fan favorite, so like the fact that he ended up getting it and escaping Dig Prison was great, fantastic, love it, thumbs up. And closer, amazing find, came out into the TCL. Like I think, and also now Golden Guardians, of course, you see a lot of question marks, but we all know what those question marks will turn into and what Hunter has also promised. So time to
diamonds. That's what they'll turn
time
into.
to develop some diamonds is what I'm saying for Golden Guardians.
Diamond is already joining FlyQuest.
I knew you were gonna make this fucking joke as soon as that word left my mouth. I tried to not use gold for Golden Guardians to avoid that pun, but once I said diamonds, I was like, fuck.
There we go.
Get fucked, Mark. Kaboom. Anything you want to say before we go on to our final caller?
Yeah, I think I'm in a kind of a unique position to most people in the community. I've actually never played League of Legends, which sounds crazy, but I kind of came up as a 100 Thieves fan from other esports, and 2020 was my first season watching, so I have like kind of no prior experience before this year of what League of Legends scene is, and it's been kind of a great experience learning, and shout out to you guys because I've learned a lot just watching your show. So it's been
thank
great.
you. That's really nice to hear. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. We really enjoy.
Stay far away from the game.
No, but here's the thing. I'm gonna defend the game. Find a 5-man to play with. Find friends to play with when you're getting introduced. Because if you're playing with randoms and normals, you will hate it. But much like any game, but play with some friends. You'll have a good time.
Some ARAMs and whatnot.
Yeah, it definitely looks fun. I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely up my alley.
Thank you so much for the call. All right, moving on to our final caller. Mark is going and grabbing him. Stick around after the show, please, everyone. It's very helpful for me if you do, because I'm going to do a bounty on stream. I'll hang out and talk with you guys. I mean, you can still talk off-season stuff, but it's very helpful for me whenever you guys...
I got to beat back the fans. Everyone's saying don't play the game. Look, it's the people that are great, all right? If you're with great people that are not insanely dumb and toxic, and just because they don't know you and they after the 20 minutes they know that they can just drop in some flame and go on to the next game, it's pretty fine. It's good. It's all right.
Zuihou? How do you say your name?
You can just call me Owen, but it's Zuihou. You can just call me Owen though.
Wait, call you LN?
Owen. O-W-E-N.
Owen, where are you calling
a regular
from?
name.
I'm calling from Estero, Florida.
Florida. Okay, another Florida caller. Yes. What do you want to talk about on the show, Owen?
Well, my take was Immortals waiving their exclusivity rights with TonyTop after picking him first in scouting grounds was kind of a joke on the business side of things. And it shows either distrust towards the amateur scene or it just shows simply bad business practices.
Sorry, can you elaborate for the people that don't know what happened?
So recently the scouting grounds like Combine happened, and it was I think a week-long event featuring 20 of the best players from the amateur scene. TonyTop ended up being a great performer during the event and was first picked in the draft by Immortals. But then recently today, I believe, they waived their exclusivity rights with TonyTop for contract negotiations. And it's kind of a joke because 100 Thieves and Golden Guardians ended up trading, like 100 Thieves trade their pick to Golden Guardians, which shows that the picks have some sort of inherent value. And Immortals having the first pick should have the highest value pick, and they just let it go to waste while also dropping their 2 top laners from 2020.
Okay, so let me give you a couple ideas here of why this could have happened, because I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Maybe they pick up Tony thinking, I don't know, that they're not going to be, like, something else is going to fall through. Maybe they talk to Tony and the what he's looking for in a team doesn't mesh well. Maybe he says, actually, I don't want to join Immortals. I think I can do something else. Like, there are reasons to waive exclusivity that isn't just like, well, we decided to say, screw our pick. We just randoed somebody and then threw them away, right?
Yeah, so I agree with that too. He also could have had soft deals with other orgs. I'm not sure about the legality of that, but that is a possibility. But in previous Scouting Grounds events, the orgs were allowed to interview the players beforehand. I'm not sure if that was changed with this one, but I feel like they would have a pretty good idea on the nature of the players and what their thoughts and views are towards each of the organizations. So I think it's a little weird for me that they pick him and then they either like don't trade the pick, and then of course they just ended up waiving the rights to the contract negotiation.
Yeah, when you're talking about soft deal for the Twitch viewers or whoever listening, the YouTube podcast, etc. I'm guessing what you're referring to is sort of that idea of, hey, maybe a month before Scouting Grounds or something like that, he got approached by an org that was like, hey, we'll sign you probably to an academy team, and then he goes and plays Scouting Grounds, and at the end of it, he declines politely his request. I mean, I've heard rumors of this type of stuff happening before. I actually have no idea what kind of poaching preventions or safety measures are around for Scouting Grounds. Raz or Mark, do you guys know anything?
Raz might know better than me. If he doesn't, I can give you a small thing.
You go first. You're talking about poaching protections, correct?
For like players entering Scouting Grounds.
So my understanding is that Riot is relatively hands off here because they don't want to lock a player necessarily into a contract or rip them out of one that they might have already kind of been going towards anyways. You might say, oh, well, then they shouldn't be at Scouting Grounds, but with like planning and the actual organizational specifics of it, it's just something that they're a little bit more hands off on. And so I know there have been deals in the past where like a player, everyone already knows this player, basically has like these kind of verbal agreements we're talking about in real free agency. They kind of have a verbal agreement that they're going to go to this other team. And that's why, despite everyone agreeing that Niall should probably be first picked by Immortals because they need a top laner and he's the best prospect, like, he goes to Golden Guardians for some reason. And I won't put Raz on the spot, but if I had to guess what happened, and given your report, Travis, it sounds like, that was probably something that was going to happen regardless. And what ends up happening is if you draft a player like Niles, they just wait out the free agency period and they sign anyway. So the teams just don't bother. And I assume stuff like that is going on. I've heard of it in the past. I haven't heard any specifics from this split, but like that would be an example that wouldn't shock me if I learned what happened.
And Whoopley in the chat, who works on Scouting Grounds at Riot, says at the start of the event, all 10 teams get to interview all 20 players, but teams aren't allowed to make offers during the event. And after, there's a 10-day exclusive negotiation window. So my guess is that you can make offers before the event starts, and then whatever happens afterwards happens.
If you're the number one player in solo queue, you finish the season number one in solo queue, a team approaches you, but you haven't gone to Scouting Grounds yet. I don't think Riot wants to block everything out once you're locked into Scouting Grounds, because then you're just harming the player, arguably.
Yeah.
So I think Riot's hands off with that. And I know that can, like I said, lead to some weird things with the draft, but I still think it's better this way than trying to enforce some weird exclusivity for a ham-fisted draft system that doesn't quite work in League that well. I mean, I love the draft. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing the draft. I love it. It's fun to do. But I wouldn't want to ever harm a player for the draft.
I could go on and just, unless if you have a point about that specific topic, because I wanted to move on more so about like what the caller was talking about.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Like if Immortals first pick and they're going for TonyTop and they just drop him, I'm like, well, TonyTop actually performed really well in the event itself. I would have imagined that Immortals, if they didn't want to pick up anything for their LCS team, people never really do for Scouting Grounds. It's more so for their academy team than if they can just pick something up that's more beneficial for them. But they just picked up the contract and immediately dropped it. I think dropping the contract is fine. It's good. Or like the exclusivity. I mean, dropping the exclusivity as soon as possible is really helpful to the player. But then it's like, why not just either get someone that's you're interested in for academy, or just like, pick someone up that's not really performing in the tournament. Like, right? He was performing really well in the tournament, and I feel like that exclusivity would have been really beneficial to another team. And Matt, the ball's on IMT, because like I like a lot of the decisions. We already talked about it earlier in the show about the roster, But from this year, where people heavily criticized the decisions that they made about imports, to this year where now they have 2 NA players. Like, it's literally the same situation, except I actually agree with the decisions here, or at least like I understand it. I love the bot lane for their team. I think people underestimate them because they don't have names. Mostly Raze doesn't have a name that's recognizable, but Raze is really talented. I can understand the decision to pick up Revenge, even though I know personally like that 3 other top laners had proven themselves in Academy. But I understand it because Revenge busted his ass in solo queue, and he's also showcased he's talented. And Xerxes is another one where people will be like, all right, so you imported an EU jungler that performed, like his team performed poorly last year, like ridiculously poorly. But Xerxes himself has been kind of noted as a really smart jungler in his career. So I can understand these decisions and how they can work together. So I'm not completely against this roster. I think it's fine. It's just more so like usually when a org like fucks up large in a year like that, like humongously, they might take a not a risky gambit the next year, but they're
gonna
down.
dodge bad PR. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not like trying to dump on IMT, especially because I obviously.
Caller? Did we lose him?
He's back.
Oh, when you kind of broke up, you said you're not trying to dump on IMT because why?
Yeah, because obviously I'm just a fan. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't get to see the business aspect of things, but from the outside perspective, it just looks kind of weird in a sense.
Yeah, I agree. It does look weird.
They did confirm, like in the chat, you said that the orgs did get to talk to the players before the event. I mean, they weren't allowed to do like deals during the event, but I mean, if they were able to talk to the players before the event, it's weird to me that like they would be worried maybe about like a personality like difference, or like they would. I feel like they'd have like some knowledge on the player, like whether or not he'd want to play with the team.
Yeah.
I guess you could say the optics aren't good.
Yes.
Okay. One thing that I'm actually confused about, because once again, like Xerxes being picked up from Europe, that's an interesting topic, and he might perform coming into it. It's great. It would be great for his career. But they had Potluck, and I actually was really high on Potluck. If this team came in with it, which was my expectation to come in cheap and also developing players, I would have loved to have seen Potluck here. I think that would have been an amazing decision for them as a team. So it's kind of like it is a huge risk, and I want to see what ends up happening.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Owen, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Just shout out to C9, been my favorite org for a while. That's pretty much it. Thank you for having me on. Yep, you too.
All right. That is our 3-hour mega episode of Hotline League. Might have come in a little bit, but actually no, I think because we ran over. Oh boy, everyone stick around in Twitch chat because I'm going to stay on stream and I have a funny thing that you guys might enjoy. Mark, shout outs, plugs.
I want to give a shout out to my boy Travis Gafford. He's killing it this week. If you didn't know, we had an interview with our favorite fantasy author, who's one of the biggest fantasy authors of all time, Brandon Sanderson, which went on his special book YouTube channel. If you haven't checked that out, it's a great interview. I think we had a lot of great questions. DJ Wheat was there with us as well. That was a great start to the weekend. And then he followed up with dropping bombs all over the place on free agency, batting 100% or whatever the fuck he claims to be doing. It's a great weekend to be Travis Gafford.
That's a Monday.
It was a great weekend, and Monday is still the weekend.
False.
Either way, thank you, Mark. I do appreciate that. Free agency has been very fun. The Brandon Sanderson interview is great. Please go check it out. Go check out my book YouTube channel. Even if you guys don't listen to fantasy books, there's a great video up that listen or read, because I mean, who reads? There's a great video up there about fantasy stuff. It's quite fun. Raz, what do you got for us?
Oh snap! Check out my Twitch, my Twitter. No, not my Twitch. I'm not streaming as nearly as often. Go on my Twitter account at Razzleplasm. And yeah, I mean, off season's gonna be long, so check out what Golden Guardians have been putting out for their main team, their academy team. I know the news is gonna be exciting for a lot of people. What's the next batch of North American talent coming through? That's what I want to hear. And also, I said at the beginning of the show, It's still 9 o'clock. It's still his birthday. Send a happy birthday over to Blaze Olive.
There you go. Well, I want to thank everyone who tuned in for this special episode. Thank you to Greeley for coming on. Thank you to Reggie for making a surprise appearance. That was fun. Thank you to Reggie for announcing, leaking TSM's new Path of Exile expansion. That's great. Thank you to everyone who subbed. I'm going to read off the subs after this, we broke 2,000 subs, which is I don't remember the last time this happened. So thank you to Alienware. Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna stream for another hour, but this has been Hotline League episode 149.